Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill, and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com.
We are broadcasting from the Blue Chew Studios. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. Welcome to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, good old Jim Ross. JR, how are you this week?
I'm good. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing well, JR. Good to be back with you again. I know you're about to embark on a trip across the pond. We're trying to get you ahead a little bit here with the podcast, and talk to us about this. We've been talking about it the last few weeks on the show. I know you're excited to get over there.
Yeah, it's a huge fan event with as many amazing array of talent, and a lot of them from the Attitude Era. I'm looking forward to a lot of them I haven't seen in a long time. I was just thinking, you have landmarks in your life, and I was just trying to think, a lot of these guys I haven't seen since Jen got killed. So that's 2017. So I'm looking forward to that. I know they've got, I think the Steiners are there, and the Wyatt family's there. Golly, it's just an array of Trish, Lita, Tori Wilson. It's really an amazing group of talents that they've assembled. It's a daunting thing to get everybody there, but it looks like everything's on schedule. I got a new passport, and I got got travels done. So, it's going to be a quick trip in and out, but looking forward to it. It should be a hell of an event. I can't imagine if you're a fan and you're in that area, or you can get to Liverpool, check it out, because it's going to be extraordinary. I just don't see how you can get this group of talent together again. It's just tough. So in any event, it should be fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of that event, and we should have fun over there. So always enjoy it. I always enjoy catching up with my friends and a lot of the talent that I worked with. It's going to be kind of cool. So all good, man. Life is good.
Yeah, no, you've talked about it a little bit, but it's for the love of wrestling, and it is going to be an absolute blast. Like you said, a loaded card, lots of folks over there, Kurt Angle, Bray Wyatt, others. For the love of wrestling.co.uk, and that's April 23rd and 24th as this drops. It's going to be that weekend. So, man, I know you've been really excited about that. Not just to see your old friends and people that you worked with and hired in many cases, but also the fans. It's just good to be back with the fans again, JR.
Yeah, it is. This COVID is still with us, but it's not as unmanageable, it seems like anyway, as it was. So good timing. Should be fun. Long plane ride. I'm flying from Pittsburgh to Kennedy, then Kennedy to Manchester. Then that's a 10-hour flight. Then once I get to Manchester, we'll go by car to Liverpool and get the show on the road. So looking forward to it.
Well, JR, safe travels. We hope you have a great time. I know you'll have a great time. It's going to be really good for you to get out there, get on the road, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to have well wishes for you. This is the first time they've got to interact with you since, the cancer and everything that you went through as well there. So it's just going to be a great time. Wishing you nothing but success and a fun time there. Things are going swimmingly well with you and AEW. Great shows are happening. We're seeing some great matches that are taking place there. It's just an exciting time all around to be a wrestling fan and in the wrestling business.
Yeah, I agree. It should be fun. It's all about having fun, and it's no fun to sit in your seat on the plane for 10 hours. But it's not the first time I've done that. It's the first time I've done that with my cancer issue. Still, this wound is still open, and it's still healing. But seeing how that's going to react on a 10-hour flight is going to be interesting. But we'll make it. Always do.
You got it. Well, listen, we have a loaded show today. It's Backlash 2002, and we're coming right out of WrestleMania 18, that iconic night in Toronto, which if you haven't already, folks, make sure you sign up for adfreeshows.com. Myself, JR, and Mike Chioda did a watch-along of the epic Hogan Rock match, so make sure you go out of your way to check it out. We had a lot of fun with that, JR, reliving that memory. Top guys there on Ad-Free Shows got to ask questions. It was a lot of fun reliving those memories and those goosebumps, if you will, from that night.
Yeah, I'm always interested in hearing what the fans have to say and what they're interested in and what has flipped the right switch for them. So, we've had some good stuff. Ad-free shows is the way to go. It's affordable. You get amazing content that you can't get anywhere else. It's just not available anywhere else. So ad-free shows is the way to go. And like I said, it's very affordable for all of us wrestling fans. So hope folks will try it out. You won't regret it. It's fun stuff, video and audio. And Conrad's got this great roster assembled. And so we're just puttering right along and enjoying it.
And it's an ever-growing roster, by the way, and he's not done. If those who say, I see a lot more Paul Bromwell around. Well, there's a reason, because Conrad is trying to grow this thing even bigger and better, bringing on more and more talent, and it's just getting bigger. Conrad started with the core folks, and he's going to continue to add on. So it's just an exciting thing. I have a feeling we're all going to be getting together soon again, like we did last year, JR, in Chicago. And you and the King got up on stage and had a good time with all of us. We're going to do something like that again this year, and it's going to be a blast, and you don't want to miss out on those types of opportunities.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So listen, we're going to get into this right now. We talk a lot about, and some folks especially, about the lull after WrestleMania. WrestleMania it's the Super Bowl of wrestling, and we're all pumped up for it. We can't wait to check it out, and it's the peak. How hard do you think it is, JR, to follow up on that event, or is that sometimes just an excuse?
Oh, I don't know. You could use an excuse for anything, Paul. You're right. You're right about that. I don't think it's that hard. I mean, you just go out and do your work, and this is an interesting card, headlined by a tag match, which is interesting. But it's not hard, Paul. If you love what you do, then it's just another opportunity to do what you love. And that's kind of how I look at it. So it's another opportunity, and I love opportunities.
Well, the Raw the night after Mania is in Montreal. It draws 15,500 fans, which is a sellout, and gets a 5.28 rating, and draws 890,000 in Canada, which is way above the average of 543,000. This has got to be the Hogan effect, don't you think, JR?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Hogan Rock match is the impetus for the momentum, I think, and Hogan having such a great performance with Rock, and their match that they had that Rock won, and that started the wheel rolling, and it continued past WrestleMania, and now this event here is, I think, kind of underrated at some point, but it's star-studded, and we'll go over it because we got a lot of things to talk about on this show.
We do. This show opens with the most incredible reaction I've ever seen on television for a pro wrestler when Hogan comes out. And Jim, I got the clip. We're going to check it out together. Let's take a look. Here we go.
Okay.
Got to be a great feeling for Hollywood Hogan right now. Look at the This is amazing. This Molson Center crowd, it's like they saw the reincarnation of Maurice the Rocket Richard, the great and late former Montreal Canadien. King, this is amazing. I know it. This is great. They won't stop. Come on, Daryl, you're not going to stand up too. And this is overwhelming. He deserved it. I can only imagine what it must feel like right now to be Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
He's got a thought cloud over his head that says, "I'm over, brother." That's pretty amazing. Fans buying in, selling all the
This
seats.
is an extraordinary moment in the annals of the World Wrestling Federation.
Damn, I love you guys.
JR, my goodness, even Hulk Hogan, who's heard probably some of the loudest crowd reactions of anyone, to
Yep.
be there in that moment, it just sounded like the crowd was getting louder and louder.
Yeah, they were, as we like to use the term, emotionally invested, and that's one of the better examples of the fans being emotionally invested, and the show hasn't even started. You're getting this reaction on an entrance, so it was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. That was the best. Been to Montreal many times, but I've never been to Montreal with that kind of reaction. It was just very memorable. Something I won't forget.
Awesome, and that was fun to relive. So Rock comes out and they shake hands. It's being sold as the greatest match of all time. Hogan rips his NWO shirt off, which brings Nash and Hall out, and that's the main event. And there's no question Hogan being out of the NWO so quickly had everything to do with the reaction he was getting, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think so. It was all the parts are fitting perfectly thus far.
Speaking of reactions, it's time to dig yourself out of that winter hibernation and get the reaction you want from the one that you want to be with. We're talking about Blue Chew. That's right. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Guys, confidence can take you far in life. It can also help in the bedroom, especially when it comes to step up to the plate. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready whenever that opportunity arises.
Yeah, be ready.
That's right. The process is simple, JR. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations or stares.
Right.
No waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to you in a discreet package. JR, they always say first impressions are important. What about lasting impressions?
Yeah, that's important too. Blue Chew works, folks. As simple as that. And they've been a great sponsor for my shows since day one. I utilize Blue Chew from time to time. It's always worked. It gives you confidence. But the main thing is that in an important aspect of one's life, here's something that you can rely on and depend on, and it's easy to access. And our deal here today is, they just keep giving great special offers. And we've got a great special offer right now with Blue Chew that folks can take advantage of.
That's right. We've got a special deal, as JR said, for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code JR. That's easy. 2 letters, capital J, capital R, and you receive your first month free. So visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
Absolutely. Good people. and it works.
There you go. JR, hindsight being 2020, there's no way Hogan doesn't come back as being part of the NWO, since that's the plan. But do you think, looking back, the real money was bringing Hogan back and not the whole NWO?
I think so. I think so. It's a fresh start. And it organically it worked. It made sense. Logical booking. And, we had lightning in a bottle there. Hogan reestablished himself as this legitimate legend in the match with Rock, and so now there's some momentum there. And I just thought it was very well done. Interesting booking, interesting time for creative, and a lot of fun, quite frankly.
It's interesting you say that about an interesting time for booking and creative, because Linda McMahon herself would announce that next week there's going to be a draft with Ric Flair running Raw, Vince McMahon running SmackDown. Along with that, the undisputed and women's champions at the time, Triple H and Jazz, they can travel back and forth between the shows. So that's how this one would work. Let's talk about the brand split now at this time. Do you think this was the best way to launch the brand split, in your opinion, or was there a better idea thrown around that you think would have been better? Or just what are your thoughts about the brand split in general, JR?
Well, I like the brand split if there's a true brand split. I didn't like the brand split to get watered down and become, who you're going to. Yeah, I like exclusivity. I think that would have been a better way to go, just for my taste, and give these guys a chance to get established on their own vehicle, whether it be Raw or SmackDown. So. I'm sure there's they always say there's plenty of right ways to do a storyline, and but this is one way of doing it. But my issue with the brand split was not the concept of doing it; it's how it was executed once the trigger was pulled.
Yeah, you can't, if you're going to do the brand split and then you have a plan. Are you going to stick with the plan and show consistency, or are you going to start to change things up? Because then what's the point of it?
Yeah, well, it seemed like the pure brand split didn't last that long before we started seeing the fans enjoying it, hopefully. But it was very interesting times. We had not been there before, so I don't know. It's hard to predict how you would have done it. You could have done it. There's a lot of ways, as I said, to do it. But the key thing for me was maintaining some uniqueness and some exclusivity once the brand split happened. And I think that's where we might have let folks down a little bit, at least in my opinion. That's just my take.
Yeah. Hey, this is you're the pioneers for something like this. This had never been done before within a wrestling company. So there you go. Well, JR, the Beast Incarnate, another really big moment here happened. Brock Lesnar debuts during Al Snow versus Maven in a hardcore title match, and literally he just crushes everybody. Spike Dudley, who tried to win the 24/7 challenge, the image of Brock power bombing Spike 3 consecutive times with Heyman pounding on the mat is one of those moments that stands the test of time. And buddy, I have the clip for you. We're going to watch Brock Lesnar's debut. Let's check it out. Here we go.
Free agent. Boom! Brock Lesnar. I know who it is, but what's he doing out here? Oh, he's destroying bodies. Look at this monster. My God, the size of this human being. Look at who's at ringside with Brock. Oh my God. What the hell is that vermin doing here? Paul Heyman at ringside. He's been fired. He doesn't work for this company any longer. What is he doing out here? You don't think? He's shouting instructions to Brock. Oh my God, did you see that? Like trying to hurricane run in this hardcore matchup. Oh my God, with a drink. That is the scary strength of the Spike is being broken in half. And that hideous Heyman, what is he even doing here? Did he buy a ticket? What? Get a second up. What does this mean? What is Brock Lesnar? Paul Heyman? What's this?
My God, JR, Spike Dudley may still be trying to recover from that. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Hats off to Spike for taking those power bombs that weren't gentle.
Not at all.
And there's just nobody like Lesnar. I mean, nobody before him, nobody after him has been so dominant. He was when we signed him, I thought, gosh, if this guy just doesn't implode because of being on the road and not being used to being on the road, he's going to leave a lasting impression, and he's still at it. So Brock Lesnar is just simply a beast, and I think he's better now than he was even then. I mean, he's learned the business, he's acclimated to the business, and you can tell he's put a lot of time in his craft, which I greatly respect.
How much did you enjoy here the debut, and what did Heyman? He's part of the presentation. Overall thoughts on his debut and Heyman there as a part of it.
Well, I'm a big Paul Heyman fan and supporter. Anytime a wrestler can get a talent like Heyman, as we've seen Roman Reigns migrate to Paul, it's a good thing for the talent, because Heyman's a difference maker. No manager has ever made at least in recent memory that I can think of, has made an impact on their talents like Paul Heyman has created. So I thought it was a good move, and Heyman liked and Brock got along well. I think that was important to keep Brock comfortable, answer his questions, and certainly Paul could fulfill that obligation very easily.
Well, JR, to wrap this show up here, this Raw, the main event was Hall and Nash and Hogan and Rock, and that would end in a count out. Obviously, the main angle coming out of the show is the draft. In your opinion, did the draft need more than just a 1 week build?
Oh, I don't know. It could have. A lot of ways you could look at that, Paul. You can always do something better in hindsight. But I think for what we had to work with and no precedent, it was probably a real good, it probably worked out just fine, quite frankly.
Well, and two, you're starting it right after WrestleMania, which is almost like we're ending a season and we're starting a new season of TV. So
that's
there
correct.
You go. That's the storyline. And you don't need a 1 week build to sleep better. You need feels. CBD is about what you feel. It's about what you don't feel. Stress, anxiety, and pain. And feels is a better way to feel better. It's a premium CBD that will help you keep your head clear and feel your best. And it's hassle-free, delivered directly to your door. CBD naturally helps reduce stress, anxiety, pain, and sleeplessness. There's no hangover or addiction. JR, I used to put my head down at night, and everything I did that day or whatever was on my mind would just flood in.
Yeah.
I would be staring at the clock for 2 hours. Not anymore, not with CBD oil. What do you think about this here with feels?
Well, again, we've said this about Blue Chew. You want to support a product that supports us, and you want to something that obviously works. And this is the good stuff, the CBD oil. You could stop looking. There's a lot of that product out there on the road or in the world. So, but I'm a big believer of good sleep. I suffer from sleep apnea. I wear the CPAP mask at night. So sleep for me is a really key thing. And I'm a big believer in getting a good night's sleep. REM sleep is what you want to try to accomplish. And with this CBD product, you can get that. So I'm a big supporter of quality CBD oil, quality CBD products, and better said. And that's what we got here. This is the Cadillac of the CBD oils.
It's true. It is. And it's simple. That's the best part. You place a few drops of feels onto your tongue and feel the difference within minutes. The thing to remember about CBD is that finding your right dose is important. Everyone's dose is different. If you need a dose of chill on the go, pop one of Feel's new CBD infused mints. Not only do you get a clear-headed feeling, but you get fresh breath, JR, so you get a bonus.
Yeah, that's good. Nothing wrong with fresh breath.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody's going to complain about that. Feels offers a free CBD hotline to help guide your personal experience as well, so that you get to your perfect dose. The Feels customer service team is dedicated to making sure you get the best use of your CBD. So join the Feels monthly membership and make sure your self-care is easy. You'll save money on every order, and you can pause or cancel anytime. How great is that? So start feeling better with Feels. Become a member today by going to feels.com/JR. That's those two important letters, the best two letters in the alphabet, JR, and you'll get 50% off your first order with free shipping. It don't get better than that, JR.
Oh, it's a hell of a deal. And it's a small investment to see if something works. It's so important in your life. I think sometimes we overlook the value of sleep. I'll catch up later. I'll get 3 or 4 hours. I'm all right. No, not really. That's not what your body needs. So give your body what it needs, a good night's sleep. And with Feels, you get that handled.
That's FEALS.com/JR to become a member and get 50% automatically taken off your first order with free shipping. Feels.com/JR. JR, we move on to SmackDown on March 21st, and that comes from Ottawa in front of 9,610 fans, and it gets a 4.3 rating. And this is technically the last SmackDown before the brand split, and the story is here. Vince is trying to line up his roster. How insane was the process of JR of trying to decide who went where?
Well, anytime you try to make multiple talents happy, you're challenged, because that's almost impossible. And guys didn't want to break up their writing partners. Talents that were in relationships want to be on the same travel schedule. The boyfriend girlfriend thing was an issue, but it was challenging. You can't make everybody happy, including the fans and the talent. But I was involved in tons of those conversations. People lobbying for their brand. So it was challenging, but a necessary evil. I thought we needed to do something, and this was hopefully, if the brand splits were true, gives everybody the opportunity to get more TV time in a primetime environment, and it puts a spotlight on them better. So all in all, I was for the brand split, but I got less for it, if that makes sense, after when they started migrating from brand to brand. I just didn't think that was a smart way of doing it, but there was exceptions and all that stuff. But hey, look, I don't know how to explain it. It's just it was a good idea. It was for the right reasons, but along the way to get there, to build this new infrastructure, was challenging, to say the least. A lot of boo-boo faces.
You said it right, though, JR, when you were describing it. It was the opportunity to get more talent, more TV time. Now, when you start swapping people back and forth, that means not as many talent is going to have that same amount of TV time if you're just going to move people, same characters back and forth to the shows. So in theory, when you're originally pitching it, yeah, that's awesome. Now more talent's going to have the opportunity for some TV time. And so you definitely can see a big win there, and why people would be, at least the talent would be, so excited about it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, DDP's European title reign ends very quickly when Regal hits him with the brass knucks for the pin and the victory. And JR, this would really be DDP's, biggest moment here. Is he considered one of the biggest misses, you think, in company history, as far as, where he went while he was with WWE?
Might have been. I don't know. We were happy to have Dallas on the roster. He may have been underutilized, to say the least. But nobody ever questioned his talent. Here's the guy that's probably one of the greatest overachievers in the history of wrestling, to start wrestling in his mid-30s. And he wasn't a college athlete. He was just a guy that worked his ass off in a business that he loves. So I would say, under those circumstances, that Dallas was probably a little bit underutilized, to say the least. But he survived it. He's got a successful business now. He's helping people. I saw where he's working with Buff Bagwell now to help him get his life straightened out, which is wonderful of Dallas to do. Hopefully it works. And he's helped Jake Roberts, and then he helps, of course, we remember him helping Scott Hall. So I don't know. If you're a DDP fan, here's what the answer is. Yes, he was underutilized. Pretty simple.
But you're right, though. He has always been an overachiever, and he continues to see success. He and Jake now have a podcast with Conrad. So, they're continuing to move
Imagine
forward.
that.
The ever-growing empire. Well, here's another nugget of news. Rico, he makes his debut as Billy and Chuck's stylist. Rico was one of the guys who started in the wrestling business later on in life, but Jim Cornette always put him over as someone who was very good in the ring and had a personality. What were your thoughts on Rico making his big splash into the company as Billy and Chuck's stylist, JR?
Well, I wasn't crazy about the creative. That was really on the strong side of the entertainment side of sports entertainment. Billy and Chuck were great hands, but all the innuendo and all the supposition about Billy and Chuck's sexuality and all that stuff, I didn't buy into that much. To me, it was unbelievable and it was kind of silly. But that's what the boss wanted, and that's what we delivered. And as far as Rico's casting or booking, he was good for that role. Rico was always very reliable. He was a former police officer, lived in Vegas. He went to OVW, did a good job. I always heard good reports. The weekly reports on Rico are always positive. He worked hard. He was never late. And so for that reason, I was happy that they were doing it because it gave Rico an opportunity. It also gave Billy and Chuck an opportunity to reinvent themselves, so to speak. So, but just personally, because of the sexuality aspect of it, what it is or what isn't, I don't know how you look at it, but it wasn't my favorite storyline. But I anytime it gets talents that deserve a break, you like it. And so that's kind of how I hung my hat on that deal. I just thought it was just not my cup of tea, but what the hell, that don't mean anything. All that means is that JR personally didn't like it, but you couldn't tell that in my work. And I was happy those guys are getting an opportunity. I don't even know how excited Billy and Chuck were on that packaging. But in any event, it gave them a chance to reinvent themselves, and it gave Rico a job. So,
that's right.
It worked out okay.
Also, speaking of a job, X-Pac comes back, and he reappears to join the NWO in a beatdown on Rock and Hogan, and he's in the NWO again. Makes sense, right? Sean Waltman back with the NWO.
Yeah, he fit really well with Hall and Nash. They're buddies. They had good chemistry. And don't forget, with adding X-Pac to that mix, put him in a real good spot. Sean Waltman's very intelligent and had a great feel for creative. And so him together with those guys, I thought was the right way to go on that.
He just made a little bit of a wrestling comeback for GCW. Unfortunately, tore his bicep, but he got himself in great shape, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery. We can see him back again. So there's also rumor and innuendo in the Wrestling Observer. Imagine
No, get the hell out of here.
that there's talk internally of putting some cruiserweights on SmackDown after the draft. They're talking about bringing in Super Crazy JR, Jerry Lynn possibly brought back in. Do you remember any of this discussion about potentially adding cruiserweights to the SmackDown brand?
Well, the guys you mentioned and other cruiserweights that we had available to us are going to make the show better because they're quality performers. Jerry Lynn's so underrated. He's a hell of a hand, and
Awesome.
Jerry's doing a great job. He's a coach for AEW now, and has been since pretty much day one, I think.
Yeah.
So Jerry does a great job, and but to get more matches on television with the talent of the skill set of Jerry Lynn is a win.
When you talk about Jerry Lynn, man, he's one of those guys that it's like if the machine could have got behind him, he was so good, so talented,
Yeah.
JR.
He was.
Yeah. Well, we know months from now, Rey Mysterio will sign and head to SmackDown. Was that the best indication that was the plan in terms of cruiserweights and them trying to kind of have that emphasis on SmackDown?
I don't know how big that cruiserweight topic really was. I mean, it existed, but it certainly wasn't a focal point. All it was getting some deserving talents the opportunity to do what they do best, bell to bell. And so, you know, I anytime you can get guys an opportunity, like I said, Rico, getting a little opportunity as a stylist at Billy and Chuck, Waltman coming back in and fitting back with his family, so to speak. All that was good stuff. Get guys opportunities, created new matches, and I thought in those instances it worked out pretty damn good, this brand split.
Well, JR, speaking of plans, your best plan to make customizable climate-controlled sleep solutions is Chili Sleep. Chili Sleep makes those solutions that will help you improve your entire well-being. They make the Uller and Cube sleep systems hydro-powered, temperature-controlled mattress toppers that fit over your existing mattress to provide your ideal sleep temperature. Man, that sounds so good. I could go right back to bed right now on my Chili Sleep mattress pad, JR.
Yeah.
These luxury mattress pads keep your bed at the perfect temperature for deep sleep. Whether you sleep hot or cold, these sleep systems are designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and give you the confidence and energy to power you through your day. Imagine waking up and not feeling tired. Oh, it's amazing.
Very cool idea. Very cool idea, Paul. This concept, it really is. No pun intended, but
I love what you did.
Nobody
there.
wants to wake up sweaty.
No.
And wake up, you know, it's just a miserable feeling to wake up sweaty and uncomfortable because you know you're not getting great sleep. You know you're not getting a REM sleep, and this is a way that you can accomplish that. That's so simple. You know, I often think of these great ideas that we have from these sponsors on the show, and I think, well, golly, I wish I'd have thought of that.
Yeah,
that's such a logical idea. You know, why didn't I think of that idea, so to speak? So, and again, as you know here, my philosophy, sleep is so important in our life, and so I think sometimes some of us just kind of take it for granted, and we shouldn't.
and they took it up. Speaking of ideas, they took it to the next level. They said, not only are we developing mattress pads, JR, but we're going to make a chili blanket. It's the only weighted blanket that can also be paired with a control unit for the ultimate sweat-free sleep. Buddy, I'm a hot sleeper, and what I mean by that is I can't handle a ton of blankets. My wife calls me a toaster oven, but not anymore. No, sir, not with chili. Once my body hits the bed, it's like taking the boot to the face and the big leg drop from Hulk Hogan. I'm down for the count, JR. So listen, head over to chilisleep.com/JR. That's the key to learn more and save 30% off the purchase of any new Cube or Uller sleep system. This offer is available exclusively for Grilling JR listeners and only for a limited time. That's Chili, CHILI, sleep.com/JR to take advantage of our exclusive discount and wake up refreshed every day. JR, someone who's noticeably absent from these shows, especially coming off WrestleMania, is Stone Cold, your buddy. This is not the walkout. We all remember when asked to put over Brock Lesnar a year later, that occurs, but he definitely went home during this period. What do you remember of Austin deciding to take some time off here?
Well, he needed it. You know, he needed it. He needed it for his head. He needed it for his body in general. You know, he wasn't going anywhere. He just needed a break. And then we make big news out of the fact the guy needs some time off just to recharge his batteries. It's not that big a deal. You know, it's not that big a deal. He was rode hard and put up wet, and he needed a break. And I never questioned when he came to me and said, I need some time off, because I knew that he needed it. He was coming because he loved wrestling. He loved being in the ring. He loved being at the events. He loved the crowds. So it wasn't the fact that it was a negative deal. It's just his body needed to tap out and to rest and regenerate. So, but we knew Austin wasn't going anywhere. He just needed time to recharge those batteries. Simple as that.
Makes total sense. And his absence will be handled a lot different here as the draft takes place on March 25th from State College, PA, home of the Penn State Nittany Lions. It's announced that Austin would go to the highest bidder, and he would be exempt from the draft, JR. Did anyone on the roster care that he was presented this way when he walked out of the company?
Not if they're smart. everybody wanted to be on his cards when I booked live events.
I'm sure.
The first thing they'd look at is where Steve was, and they'd see if their name was on that same card. And they liked that. Simple.
Yeah.
It's all about the money. People say it's not about the money. It's all about the money. So I never heard anybody complain about Austin's schedule because he had pulled the wagon for so long, and he'd made a lot of guys a lot of money, either working with him or working on his cards.
Well, the draft goes down. It does a 5.41 rating, the highest Raw rating since July. And big time audience for this. This is something fresh. This is something new. It's something that's never been done before, JR, right? People want to see what this looks like.
Fans like new. They like common sense new, reality-based new, and this certainly was reality-based in that respect. So no, nobody complained about Steve, and the great thing about it is that we knew Steve was going to come back once he got his mind and rested and refreshed. So no, we were good with that.
Well, we have the results here. I'm not going to read every single name, but what it looks like is we have Ric Flair's Raw on one side. You got names like Undertaker, Nash and Hall. You got Kane. You have Raven, Terry Runnels. You got Trish Stratus, the Hardys, and Lita. Lots of big name talent there. And then on Vince McMahon's side, you got The Rock and Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit and Hulk Hogan. You got Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler. My goodness. It's just loaded. You guys had a loaded, Chris Jericho, loaded roster, JR, of talent and superstars and Hall of Famers back in this era.
Yeah, it's an impressive roster. Well, some of our best work as a talent relations department was to assemble this roster. And I thought we did a nice job with that. And it put guys in a position to make an impact. And I think and most of them took advantage of those opportunities. You're looking where they are now and what they accomplished subsequently, pretty damn impressive.
And as we said, Triple H was the undisputed champion, so his role was to travel back and forth. He ends up defeating Jericho and Stephanie in a three-way for the title. Hunter pins Stephanie. She's now forced to leave WWE. I can't even believe I'm saying this. This was the creative. Having Stephanie as an on-air character for just a short period of time in this return seems a little strange. Was there a shift in creative here, or was this just done when Hunter returned to write her off?
She was a great heel.
She was.
I felt that maybe that came a little early, but we knew we had not seen the last of her. You don't just discard a talent that's as skilled as she was as a pro wrestling heel. She really took after her dad in that regard, the natural instincts of being a villain, and did a great job. So it might have been a little premature in hindsight. We can do this whole show and do a show next week and the week after. Hindsight's 20/20, folks. Well, I think they should have done this. Well, I think they should have done that. What did Dave say? Because we know Dave has all the information. And so I don't know, man. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. I just, you don't want to lose a talent of her skill set for less than great reasons. I don't know, her getting off TV was a great reason and a great development, quite frankly.
Speaking of Dave, as you say, JR, from The Observer, it's so funny. It's like, he says here, it got so funny on March 25th that the wrestlers that were not among the top 20 picked weren't told at the show which side they were on, only to click on WWF.com that night to find out. Several who were driving to Philadelphia ended up having to call friends after the show to find out where they were picked. And even that didn't work since the WWF servers were overloaded in the hours that those picks were being revealed. Is this just a talent relations nightmare? Why was the course of this action?
Well, Vince wanted to keep it quiet. And the boys are the worst ones to tell. Because they're going to tell everybody. And then now the like secret and all that is the secret are the surprises become misnomers. It's sometimes the talents are their own worst enemy. And so I would not say that it was the best plan in hindsight, but it was the only way we knew that we could keep some confidentiality and without everybody, letting the cat out of the box.
Okay. Yeah. I know you're right, because there's obviously people that talk to the dirt sheet writers and wrestlers that talk to them. So you're right. If you want to keep something a secret, then there you go. That makes a lot of sense. Don't let your credit score be a nightmare with Credit Karma. Planning ahead for a big expense, it's heating up, JR. Some of our listeners may be thinking about finally putting that big pool in the backyard, or maybe you're just trying to eliminate some lingering credit card debt. Well, Credit Karma can help you look for the low-interest personal loan that could save you money while you pay off your purchase. Credit Karma uses your credit data to find loan officers that are personalized to you so you can have a better idea of what loan amount you can get approved for. Credit Karma will even show you your chances of approval so you can choose between loan offers that you're more likely to get approved for and apply with more confidence. Comparing loan offers on Credit Karma is 100% free, won't affect your credit scores, and could save you money. Credit Karma, apply with more confidence today. So check it out, JR, creditkarma.com, right? I mean, we want to make sure.
Paul, excuse me, it's a time in our society that is perfect timing with the interest rates where they are. Take advantage. Don't outsmart yourself. Don't overthink this, folks. And Credit Karma is a very reputable company. We don't do business with people that aren't reputable. And we appreciate their support, but it's something you might want to consider, quite frankly, to get your house squared away, so to speak.
Take JR's advice right now. Head to creditkarma.com/loan offers to see personalized offers. Again, creditkarma.com/loan offers to find the loan for you. That's creditkarma.com/loan offers. JR, did it make sense with some people that had to be drafted as a group, like the NWO, but teams like the Dudleys were drafted to be broken up?
I didn't like the Dudleys being broken up, and I'm sure they didn't like it either. I'm guessing it's a long time ago, but they're an established act. They should have stayed together, in my view. Not that they didn't do well, but you can't just replicate the Dudleys. They established, they had roots, they were over, and a great team. I would not have been. I was not for the Dudleys being broken up. I didn't think that was a good idea, and I can't remember, quite frankly, but I would suggest it wasn't something that the Dudleys liked. But it's a place that we're called. You run the place. You do what you got to do, and the other thing too is it kind of allowed Bubba and Devon to establish their own route, shall we say, their own destination.
Identity. Yeah,
and so. But I wasn't for that split up, quite frankly. I love the Dudleys team. They always were reliable for me. They worked their ass off. They had good matches across the board. They redefined the TLC matches, the tables and all that stuff. So, but I wasn't a big fan of the Dudleys breaking up.
Well, JR, the SmackDown the next night is in Philadelphia, PA, and they draw 13,600 with a 3.7 rating. Really strong ratings here for SmackDown. It's the last official TV show before the brand split goes into effect. Had there been talks and determination on announce crews at this point, or was that even up for debate for this first initial brand split?
I don't think it was up for debate. I think the plan was to leave Lawler and myself on Raw, and Michael Cole and whoever his partner was going to do was the Taz. They did a hell of a job, so why not? Why not use keep that together? They had good chemistry, different sound than Lawler and myself. So I don't think there's any controversy. We didn't have an overabundance of announcers, and so it seemed logical to me. You just leave JR and King where they were, and Cole and Taz where they were, and then build from that. So that's kind of what we did.
Okay. Well, you had Vince and Taker defeating Flair and Hunter in the main event. And that had to be a thrill for Hunter, teaming with Ric Flair, one of his idols, one of the guys he looked up to watching wrestling.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was a fun night for Hunter, growing up as a fan, and Flair growing up as, Flair's the legend.
Yeah, that's right.
And nobody better. So I'm sure that was a fun experience for everybody involved.
There's talk in the Observer of how the WWF was trying to get most of the regulars down to $125,000 or less on the downsides. Is this a company directive considering the downturn in the business?
I don't remember that 125 grand thing. You want guys to make a living. The better the houses do, the more money they're going to make if they're booked. I don't remember that being an issue because your upside guarantee, your downside guarantee is what it is, but where you want to go is the above money, and that was something really. That's something that we all wanted to do. I remember signing. I told Chris Jericho when I signed him that, I can't pay you what you're making at WWE, but I can make you more money at the end of the day because of the upside, the houses. Well, live events is just a key element in the pay structure. And the better the live events did, the more tickets they sold, the more money was generated, the more money that they made. So I don't remember that $1.25 thing, but this has also been a long time ago.
Exactly. This is 20 years ago. So, yeah. JR, the first Ric Flair Raw takes place from Albany, New York, and draws 9,000 fans. It's a 4.84 rating. We got a new logo. We got a new theme music. We have that new undisputed title belt. It merges the WWF and WCW titles together into one finally. And the show opens with Rob Van Dam defending the Intercontinental title against Booker. Van Dam gets the win, but after the match is attacked by the returning Eddie Guerrero. And JR, we have that clip for you. Let's check it out.
It's a good one.
Take one more look at this big, huge five-star frog splash. I thought that did in Van Dam as well, but he was able to crawl across and get, hey, look at this, JR. Oh, they're ready. Oh, wait a minute. What the hell? What is he doing in the ring? That's Eddie Guerrero. That's Ric Flair's apparently signed Eddie Guerrero. And Guerrero making his presence felt here with the Intercontinental Champion. Uh-oh, Eddie Guerrero going up top. This guy will do a little frog splashing of his own. Look at this. Boom, boom. Eddie Guerrero with his version of the frog splash on the Intercontinental Champion. And Rob Van Dam has been left in a heap thanks to Eddie Guerrero. Van Dam is crushed. Look at this. Where did he come from? Van Dam with a hellaciously hard fought victory over Booker T, and then gets assaulted by Eddie Guerrero.
JR, you have to be thrilled to have Eddie back.
Yeah, well, he's at that time he was considered, certainly by his peers, as one of the best workers in the world. So you get somebody like that back in your lineup, it's a win. And of course, the dirt sheet. Well, could you have done it differently? I mean, I'm looking for 8 stars just on the entrance. I think you could have done it differently. Okay, what, Mr. Booker, what would you do? I thought that was impactful. And Eddie left with heat. Rob Van Dam had a win, a tough win over a great opponent in Booker T. And then Eddie delivered the damage. Worked for me. It's simple, but sometimes it's simpler is much often the better.
JR, were you impressed with how he handled himself while he was gone on his little sabbatical here?
Who, Eddie?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we just always want to get Eddie healthy. And Eddie sometimes was his own worst enemy. He internalized a lot of things, God bless him. And he was so intense and a perfectionist in a lot of ways. I can't tell you how many the hours I spent talking to Eddie. And, I wish I could have done more. But, we didn't realize Eddie had some health issues. And I'm glad there's processes in place now that should prevent that, quite frankly. So it's a matter of growing. You're growing and how you address your talent, what kind of systems you have in place to make sure that you're taking care of them as the best you can. But you love Eddie back. I mean, my gosh. Again, anytime you can put a guy back in service, back in the game, that's as good as him, that's a significant win for you.
Well, this show is also all about Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's going to sign with Raw and Ric Flair over Vince McMahon and SmackDown. But the real story, according to The Observer, here we go, JR, are the real life differences were settled, from what I gather, this is according to Meltzer, on March 26th. Although he still missed his scheduled house shows, WWF handled it very old school con man style. knowing certainly well in advance Austin wouldn't be at the shows that he was the big star in, but never letting the word out in the local media. It's one thing if someone missed a show due to transportation problems at the last minute, but something totally different when they just forgot to let people know when they know. There were also a lot of complaints in Rochester the next night as Austin's name was used in all of the advertising for SmackDown.
Yeah, big mistake. It's a mistake, Paul.
Yeah.
We can revise this, regurgitate this, whatever Dave says or anybody else says. It wasn't the right way to do business. I don't know why we did that. I could tell you Austin did not condone it. That's not his style. But that was a decision made by the higher ups, and whether I liked it or you liked it or Dave liked it or anybody else liked it, that's what it was, how it went down. But it wasn't ideal. I wish we had not done that. I always believe in being honest and truthful to the fans, and we weren't on that occasion, and that was unfortunate.
What can you tell us about this situation, JR? Was it tough to bring Austin back to the table, or was this just we need to get everyone in the room, let's talk this thing out, let's get it figured out type deal?
No, I don't know. Getting everybody in the room was a big deal. I don't know how Steve felt about the brand split. I mean, it's going to go on with or without him, and all it was going to do is create him as some new opponents. He liked that, so I don't know, Paul, how to answer that question. But I don't remember us having a big sit down and getting everybody in a room. That getting everybody in a room is overblown. Hell, wrestlers can't agree to what, they say, well, there should be a wrestlers union. These guys can't friggin' agree on what to have for lunch. So not much less form a union. But it sounds good in the sheets. It sounds good to some fans, but I'm a big believer that things are going to work out. And Steve was on board. It's just the fact that he wanted more information and he deserved more information, and he wanted to know where he stood. Who am I going to work with, basically?
It always solves the problems, JR. Communication.
That's it.
That's what it is. The NWO, by the way, takes over former APA's office. And Meltzer has this great line in the Observer. He says, "Crash Holly finked to Bradshaw. Was Finkel a snitch?" Is that what he's trying to say here when Crash Holly finked to Bradshaw?
I don't know.
I guess maybe that's just Dave's way.
I don't know. I don't know. It's
portray Howard in that way.
Well,
in your estimation, did you ever hear that about Finkel? Was he a little bit of a snitch, or but he
knew all the dirt?
Yeah.
Howard consumed copious amounts of internet chatter. He liked it, and then sometimes he would give us information that we would missed or something along those lines. But I don't know. I always had great respect for Howard. He's
great.
Nobody loved wrestling more than Howard Finkel. Let's just put it that way. And he was a great ring announcer. He loved WWE more than anybody I've ever known. Hence, he loved the concept that he was the first guy hired by Vince. And it was on April Fool's Day, ironically. So, but I got, I don't know that Howard snitched and all that stuff. It's just Howard was Howard. He thought he was helping when he come into my office in the morning and bring me the New York Post or the Daily News with scraps of his breakfast on it. There's where he had, "Oh, Howard, you had eggs this morning, huh?" "How'd you know?" "Well, it's on my paper you brought me." So, but he was a good guy. He was Fink, and Fink had some unique personality traits. But I loved him. We always knew Howard was reliable and dependable, did a great job. People loved him, and I miss Howard to this very day.
Thankfully, he stayed away from the sausage gravy. That could have been a real mess on your newspaper.
Yeah.
This is to build the Bradshaw getting an elevated role and working against the NWO. But Nash had already tore his bicep in his only match, the tag match we talked about earlier. So it'll be Scott Hall taking on Bradshaw at the pay-per-view. This return on the NWO is fading quickly, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, it kind of run its course.
Yeah.
I think people are ready for something new, and we had a chance. Look at how great Bradshaw became as a character when he was out of the APA. I was an APA fan, and I'm a big Ron Simmons fan. From my WCW days. I still look at one of my favorite nights was calling the title change with Ron and Vader.
Yes.
That was cool stuff for me. But Bradshaw reinvented himself, to his credit, and became a whole new character that had an immense amount of increased marketability. And so that's his job, being smart. And he is a smart guy, great entrepreneur, businessman, humanitarian. But his character, the new character, really set him apart. And smart move by the company, I thought.
By the way, if you want to hear JR call that Ron Simmons Vader match, go back and listen to the Vader episode. Just unbelievable time in wrestling, and to hear Ron Simmons win that championship. JR, listen to this. I saw this and I thought, oh boy, here we go. Can't wait to cover this one with JR. Dave Meltzer. He says, you take a shot at the fans in your commentary, and here's what Dave has to say. Jim Ross, apparently reacting to all the criticism of the lack of logic of Flair picking Undertaker in NWO, said that Flair drafted Undertaker to make his life a living hell, and that anyone who couldn't figure that out was an idiot. Wow, the babyface announcer called the audience idiots because nobody knew that. Do you think it was a logical story, or is that Vince talking through you?
I may have gotten a little overzealous.
I love that.
But, sometimes it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
There's always a mystery. There's always a conspiracy. And God dang, it gets old. It really does. So, and quite frankly, the making Undertaker's life a living hell by the Nate was plausible. It made sense. If he didn't like him, you draft him and you make his life a living hell. That's kind of what happened. But that was too simple an explanation. There's got to be more to it than that. Something's going on. I need to know what's going on. So well, maybe Dave will tell me.
Give us the dirt. That's what it's always all about, JR. I love it.
Always about the damn dirt.
We haven't gotten any Jim Barnett from you in a while, by the way. Maybe we'll mix that in some point in the show. SmackDown the next night is taped in Rochester in front of a sellout crowd of 8,500. It draws a 4.1 rating in Vince McMahon's first SmackDown. Michael Cole and Taz, as you said earlier, JR, are the announce team. And it was reported for a long time, though, again, this is more Meltzer reporting, that they didn't like Taz as announcer. Do you remember hearing that at all before?
Oh, somebody's not going to like somebody. Taz did a great job.
Absolutely.
He and Cole were a new team. They're developing their chemistry. Taz was always prepared. He does a great job on Rampage now on Friday nights. He's a real staple to that broadcast team for AEW now. But I never heard Taz's personality. He wasn't going to win any Mr. Congeniality contests. He just wasn't. And that's just nature.
Yeah.
So I never had a crossword with Taz. I helped him as much as I could. He'll tell you that. No, I don't. I thought Cole and Taz were really the team we needed on SmackDown, and I thought they did a great job.
Oh, they certainly did. They were the voices of that brand, and really, Cole and Taz were an awesome team. And it is good, like you said, to see him in AEW getting to do his thing again behind the desk. So on Raw, Flair announced that Taker would be getting his first title shot. But here on SmackDown, Vince announces that in the deal, he had the right to name who the first #1 contender was. Is this just trying to fill in logic as we go here, Jim?
I think so. Connect the dots.
Yeah.
And create some controversy. And that's kind of the controversy creates cash, as Eric Bischoff once said.
That's right. Well, Hogan makes his first appearance in the red and yellow, brother, since 1993 in the WWF. The story's always been that Vince had Hulk fly back Monday after Mania to grab the red and yellow gear, but waited 2 weeks to use it. Have you heard about that story, JR? Do you know if that's true?
I remember Hogan needing his red and yellow because that's where Vince wanted to go. But then something happened creatively just to postpone that a little bit. But I don't know if it was any big deal. But the red and yellow was kind of where we were headed.
Yeah. Well, Vince announces Hogan gets the title shot. And it really makes no sense since Vince is a heel and Hogan's a babyface, but whatever, we're here. Hogan gets another huge pop, and we are ready. It's red and yellow Hogan. It's April 4th, 2002 SmackDown, JR. We have the clip. Here we go. Let's check it out together.
There it is, red and yellow, all over your screen.
Hunter got the smirk on his face.
Yeah, great heel. Triple H had the art of being a great heel down pat. A lot of guys may not like him personally because who he married. Sad reason to not like somebody because of their choice of a spouse. I thought it was embarrassingly stupid, but people to judge this guy because of that. But he was like I said many times, you know, Vince was the top heel in the Attitude Era, and Triple H was a close 1A. He came of age during this period. Because Hunter's responsibility now is to get a great match out of Hulk.
Yeah, and
he'd do what Rock did.
Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure.
So that's kind of where we are. Great ovation. Nostalgia. He's the Eagles, man. I've said this before. They want to hear Hotel California, and you hear Hotel California when you're wearing red and white, red and yellow, rather. Excuse me.
You hear the the Hendrix play on the song there. I kind of wish, though, this was real American for red and yellow, just because that's the traditional nostalgia for me.
Yeah, that would have worked.
Yeah,
that would have worked.
So there we go. He's back. He's red and yellow. You had to have Hogan win the title in his first big match back in the red and yellow, right, Jim?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was the right thing to do. We did it hasn't been released yet, a special show on that title change.
That's right.
With John Alba.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. You're going to enjoy seeing it. It'll be on the ad-free network imminently. But I had a lot of fun doing it with Paul. He's very prepared, very professional. But the match with he and Triple H for the title was, I thought, really, really well done.
Yeah, no, check it out. It will be after this show drops later on this month. They are going to watch the match together. It's John and JR, and it's the full match. And we're going to show a little bit of highlights of it as we close out the show today. But again, another bonus perk of being adfreeshow.com member, all this great content. Well, Rock pins Jericho and what will be Rock's last appearance until July due to doing all the media work that he had to for Scorpion King. Was it sudden that Rock went away, or did you have notice and didn't want to have him lose on his way out?
Oh, we knew he was going to go. He had other obligations.
Yeah.
We also knew it was just a matter of time before he ceased being a full-time guy. He had too many great opportunities that all worked out. Obviously, he's, like last year, he was the #1 box office guy. So more tickets, more movies, tickets than anybody in the business. So we knew he was on Dwayne made good choices. I'm excited about the fact that he's rejuvenating the XFL. He's got seemingly a great rapport with the NFL.
Yes.
Quite frankly, how do you say no to The Rock? He uses so much logic in the things that he does. So we knew that his next career was waiting. But we weren't going to send arguably one of the top guys we've ever had away on a loss. Didn't need to.
Just to capitalize what you said, his relationship with the NFL, they've named the coaches, which are great names of Bob Stoops, others. Who's who? Jeff Hazlitt, I think. Jim Hazlitt, and Hines Ward, Rod Woodson, lots of great guys. He's pulling all the right levers. The Rock knows how to do it, man. He's all over ESPN right now. It's just great to see what he's accomplishing.
I love it. I hope that they're successful. I really do.
What did you think of the difference in shows between Raw and SmackDown after the launch, JR? Did you think they were separate enough to make the brand split seem legitimate, in your opinion?
If we'd left it all alone, yeah.
Yeah.
You got your roster here, you get your roster here. Cultivate those two rosters and let them elevate. It was. I didn't feel any I thought it was, in the beginning, it was working along pretty well. You know, you always want to create controversy. We were doing that, so to speak, I think. So, but still, it was still growing. It was still evolving. It was still a new venture, a new journey, new road to travel. So, it still had growing pains, no doubt about that. But I still think at that time, I thought this is the way to go.
Speaking of legitimacy, Goliath Life will make your life insurance experience legitimate. And it's time for me to share with you something I'm super passionate about, and that's protecting your family. Yes, this is a life insurance ad for GoliathLife.com, but to me, this is really about peace of mind. Think about insurance for a second. We all have medical and auto insurance, yet we never even know if we're going to have a need for it. Let me let you in on a little secret. You need life insurance because we're all going to die. Now, as you let that reality sink in, think about what would have happened if your family stopped having your income tomorrow. If you don't have a plan for that, you need to visit GoliathLife.com, and I mean right now. Listen, I've lost 2 friends in their 40s in the last year and a half, and I don't even want to think about what their families would be going through had they not had life insurance. If you don't have it, get it. Protect your family. And I suggest you go to GoliathLife.com because they've made the process of getting affordable life insurance super easy. GoliathLife.com streamlines the life insurance process by allowing you to get quotes from more than 20 carriers within minutes. And you'll pick your terms and payments to fit your budget. You pick your price, you start the online application immediately, and even schedule the medical exam to come to you. I've done it. They sent someone to my office. I skipped the phone calls, the paperwork, the crazy invasive conversations. GoliathLife.com makes buying life insurance simple. There's no hidden fees, no upsells, no hassle. Hell, not even a phone call. GoliathLife.com is life insurance in your hands, on your time. Get multiple quick quotes right now from the comfort of your own home and begin your application in a few easy clicks right now at GoliathLife.com. JR, life insurance, so very important, my friend.
Don't outsmart yourself, folks. We all need it. We all have to have it. It's a way to protect our family. Don't leave your family high and dry. And this is a simple way to solve that problem and to ease that stress. And know that you've done all you can do to protect your family. So my question to you out there and podcast land is, have you done all you can do to protect your family? And you can accomplish that very simply, very painlessly with Goliath Life.
There you go. Check it out, GoliathLife.com right now.
Hey, folks, it's time to take your podcast game to the next level. And you certainly want to get your almighty push. My God, we have to have a push, right? We'll get that over to adfreeshows.com. Now, I'm telling you, if you're a fan of Grilling JR, adfreeshows.com has the entire episode library, and it's got no ads, 0 ads, zilch, none. Ad-free and on video starting at just $9. Did you hear what I said? $9. You spend more than that at Starbucks, for God's sakes. 2 mornings. If that's not all, folks, we got tons of bonus content, including my after-hours roundtable, where drinking was involved with Eric and Tony. You simply will not find a better value in all of wrestling. Hey, look, don't make me go red ass, because by God, you know I will. Hurry over to adfreeshows.com right now and sign up. And I thank you.
JR, it's reported in The Observer that at one point the double main event for Backlash was scheduled to be Hogan, Rock, and Austin versus the NWO, and then Hunter versus Taker for the title. Do you ever remember hearing about that?
No, I may have heard about it then, but Paul, we're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't remember, folks, all these minute details of 20 years ago. I really am. I can't. I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, quite frankly. But that I'm sure that match was on the board. It sounds good. It had a lot of sizzle. With those 2 teams had a lot of sizzle, but I don't remember. Again, everything was so fluid back in those days. So things were moving and changing. And, the last guy to talk to Vince sometimes is where it ended up being. But that's nothing new. It's that way today. I'm assuming it's that way at every wrestling company I've ever worked in. The last guy to talk to the booker oftentimes has a leg up.
JR, I bet you remember who you had breakfast with yesterday. At least I saw a picture of it on Instagram. Alicia Fox. Did you end up seeing her?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, we went to the TPC country club and had breakfast. Beautiful, where they have the sawgrass. Where they have the big what is it called? I can't remember the name of the tournament, but it's huge.
Yeah,
it's right down here from my house.
Nice.
She got a hold of me. She lives here. She's from Jacksonville. She lives about 7 minutes from where I live, she told me. And but she's been clean and sober for 3 years.
That's awesome.
And I think that was probably as good a day as I could have had, because she was happy. She looked great. She's a beautiful woman. She's got a great relationship with her boyfriend. And I just we had a great long breakfast talking about things. But she's a keeper, and I'm so glad that she's clean and sober and she's healthy.
That's great.
Yeah, she's really a beautiful, beautiful person.
That's got to do your heart good to reconnect with people like that and see that they're doing so well.
Yeah,
it's so good. I'm glad that you got to do that. Back to the storyline here. Was Taker pissed that Vince made? I mean, let's call it right. The right call by switching the main event to Hunter versus Hogan. I can't see Taker getting pissed. He seems like a guy that was always ready to do business, whatever Vince needed.
It makes good copy.
Yeah.
Oh, Taker's pissed. What's going on? And Taker is pissed. No, that was not Taker's style.
Yeah.
He would speak up. He would express himself, and he did often, because he was the conscience of the locker room. He was Clint Eastwood. He's the guy that everybody looked to for direction and things of that nature. But I don't remember him being terribly upset, because, as you mentioned, that booking of Hogan versus Triple H made sense. And you got to strike while the iron is hot. You got a 48-year-old guy with You got a 48-year-old guy with multiple back surgeries. You don't know how long he's going to be available. So you strike while the iron is hot. And that's what we did.
You had to give the people what they wanted. And then if you watched Taker at his Hall of Fame speech, that's just not the guy he is. What's Taker pissed? No. So
he's more mature, a more refined professional than that.
Yeah. Well, Dawn Marie and Nova, Mike Bucci of ECW, were signed. Bucci at one point even joined talent relations later on in his career. Any recollection of working or,
Smart guy,
Okay.
Smart guy, office kind of a guy. Probably was better suited to be a support player in the office than he was getting his break and working main events for the company. Mike's a smart kid, and I always enjoyed working with him. He always got his assignments done. Hey, Mike, follow up on so-and-so. Get me a tape with this guy or whatever. He was right there. So Mike was fun to be around, because he was a business guy, and he was honest and reliable. I use those words a lot. People may be getting tired of hearing it, but reliability is the number one trait that I always looked at to sign a talent. Are they reliable? Are they going to show up for work on time? Are they going to be straight? Are they going to be in shape? Are they going to flunk any drug tests because they want to be cute? Because they're weak. And we don't need weak people in that, certainly in that level of creative or anything else in pro wrestling. So Mike was a good kid.
Yeah, reliability for you, JR, was table stakes. That was foundational for you.
Yep.
And it makes sense. You got to. This is a tough business. You're on the road. You got to have guys and girls that are willing to be there, show up, you can count on, aren't going to be,
It's like your job.
Yeah.
It's like your marriage. It's like your relationships. Can I count on you? Are we loyal? Are we together here? Are we on the same page here? So it's not a magical formula that's only exclusive to pro wrestling. It's life.
That's right. Well, Raven gets a tryout as an announcer on Heat with Jonathan Coachman. What did you think of Raven as an announcer? Did you get to hear him at all, hear his work?
Oh, yeah, of course I did. Scotty was a good talker. The only thing about Scotty, sometimes people thought he wasn't serious enough, maybe. But he was very creative, very intelligent, high IQ. And he and Coach were, hey, look, it was the green with the green. Coach was green. That wasn't his pre-designated calling. He was an interview guy. He was a segment guy, not a play-by-play guy. But I thought they did fine. They were entertaining at times, quite frankly. So, but Scotty's a talented guy, no doubt.
Well, JR, we move on. It's Raw from Phoenix in front of a sellout, 13,500. It draws a 4.76 rating. And the focus of this show is Austin and Taker winning matches to set up a #1 contenders match at Backlash to earn an undisputed title shot at the May pay-per-view. This show also has a great angle with Spike and Regal. Regal hit brass knuckles in a turnbuckle. And while the referee was distracted, Spike came out, grabbed them, hit Regal with them, and won the European title when the ref turned back around. Do you know who was the one who put those little things together?
I mean, who actually physically put
those like little details together?
I think Meltzer did. And he gave himself 5 stars. Well, I don't know who did it. So
yeah.
Regal may have done it.
Yeah.
So you kind of want him to know where they were.
Yeah.
He's going to use them.
Well, between that, I'm sure they had a great agents too that they're working with that helps them really kind of put this whole deal together as well. Heyman, by the way, does his first interview finally about Lesnar, and Meltzer calls it classic 70s Grand Wizard, introducing the new monster heel.
Is that good or bad?
Of the month
in Dave's world.
I think it's good, but buddy, you'll find out because I got the clip for you. Because of course I do this week. Here we go. We're going to check it out together, JR.
You see, when you stand next to Brock Lesnar, you can do anything you damn well please. And it pleases me this evening to educate all of you. You're welcome, by the way. To educate all of you on some historical facts. Historical facts that led Brock Lesnar to the monumental decision of hiring me as his agent.
I think this is going to be a filibuster.
You see, it was a historical fact that I, Paul Heyman, managed Steve Austin and groomed him to be Stone Cold.
Is that a fact?
It is a historical fact that I represented The Undertaker and groomed him to be the dead man. It is a historical fact that I was the architect of a concept called ECW that spawned WWF Attitude and created the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate of sports entertainment that you see today.
Did you see Lesnar's ear, JR?
There is a moral to this story.
And we'd love to hear it, Paul.
The moral is I, better than any single one of you, can spot the next big thing. And ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing is Brock Lesnar. NCAA heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar.
It's all true.
The invincible Brock Lesnar. The invulnerable Brock Lesnar.
There we go, the descriptors.
The indestructible Brock Lesnar.
There you go. Give me another one, Paul.
The impervious to
There you
pain Brock Lesnar. Ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, Brock Lesnar.
I'd love to say he's lying.
All right, JR, who likes to hear Paul Heyman more, you think? The crowd or Paul Heyman?
Oh, that's a tough one. Hey, look, that promo was great.
It was great.
And it kind of set up the backstory of Brock and all those things. And fact of the matter is, the best promos a heel can do are when they tell you the truth and you don't want to hear it. You can't defend it because you know it's in fact true. And Paul had a big hand in all those things he talked about. I don't know if he should get credit for the Attitude Era, but nonetheless, you know, EC Dub, let's get all that done, because we love talking about EC Dub. So, but I don't know how responsible Paul was for the Attitude Era, but I can tell you this: he's been a key player in that company. Paul Heyman is as much the MVP of WWE as anybody on the roster, because he makes stars.
He does,
and he's done that with Roman Reigns, obviously, and done it very well. So, but Paul was the perfect guy to manage Brock or to be his agent. Same deal. So I like Heyman's promos. I've always liked them. You know, when the booking committee in Atlanta didn't want to do business with Paul because he was arrogant and argumentative and smarter than most of them on the booking committee, I said, I'll work with him, because I saw a great partner for me as a broadcast partner. So I want to take care of me and my team, me and Devon, and get that handled. So it was fun. Paul's good. He's really good. He's
awesome.
Going strong, man. Yeah. He's still doing great work.
He is the proverbial icing on the cake for guys like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. You're absolutely right. Roman Reigns now just feels bigger than life, and I credit a lot of it to Paul Heyman's help do.
As you should. You should. Paul's very much responsible for much of the success of Roman Reigns, as more than any other individual other than Roman.
Yeah,
Heyman's the guy.
Well, you can also tell around this time period here that they're trying to build something between Flair and Austin. It sadly would never really get to that. But was that something you think at this time, JR, and I know we're talking 20 years ago, that they were looking to ramp up here, having that Flair heel boss role once again, the babyface Austin? Or would two heel owners on both shows hurt the product in your mind?
Well, the star power wise, Austin versus Flair would have been money. Been big money, I think. Maybe I'm naive in that respect. But no, I like the concept. You know, it's just politics, time, place, all that stuff was challenging. It was hard to get all these new keyword, new moving parts on the same page. And so, you know, I think maybe it was an idea before its time.
JR, I'm really upset about something, and I'm going to have to go back to the guys that help us build out these show scripts and things like that and video clips, because I don't have a clip for what I'm about to share with you, and this is the one video clip that we needed this week. SmackDown is taped for April 11th in Tucson, and really all that's remembered from this show is Stacy Keibler dancing on a table to become Vince's personal assistant. Okay, we don't have a clip for that. Were you at the SmackDown tapings even though you weren't announcing?
Of course, yeah. I was head of talent relations. Talent was there. Why wouldn't I be there? Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious, but yeah, we don't have a clip for it, but I'm sure you can jump back and check out April 11th, 2002. Sometimes I even still see memes for that on Instagram or postings for that dance routine, and Vince's reaction is priceless. It's worth going back and checking out. At this point, JR, do you think off the jump that Raw was a better show?
Of course I did. I'm on it.
I knew you were going to say that. I love it.
Egocentrically, of course it was.
That's right.
It was an established show. But still, we're going to try to do all we could to make SmackDown a hit and make it must-see television. But, it was a lot of – there's just so many moving parts here, Paul. It's just, we can go back and recapture memories, and we can say, well, what if this happened, and what if we'd have done that, and we should have done it this way. And some of those things are true. I'm with you. And we're the fans. But it was just a very interesting time. As I said earlier in the show, creatively, it was probably one of the most fluid situations that we had things kept changing and changing, and this guy wanted to be over here, and this guy wanted to be over there, and I want to travel with my girlfriend, and I didn't get the TV time I needed. All those things. That was a daily deal. So one of the reasons that I would go to SmackDown is that's where the talents were, and some of them needed counsel. Some of them needed to talk about their pay, about the creative, whatever it may be. So yeah, I was there at all of them.
Well, we're literally getting ready. This is another big time news time for WWE, for the WWF to no longer be the WWF. Did this name change impact you in any way on the run up to it?
Well, just making sure you didn't misspeak. Those are habitual things. I did that a few times, still do it occasionally, which I'm often reminded of.
Immediately.
I wonder if people pay this much attention on their insurance and
paying their bills
all these things.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, Blue Chew it. So it was just for me as an administrator and a talent, it was some real challenging times.
It is, man. And even when, doing all these podcasts and talking with you and going through these, the shows and stuff, it's like, wait, was it WWF? Was it WWE? Oh, I hate this shit. We're just going to call it WWE. But man, I miss the WWF. That was what I grew up on as a kid. It was the Hogan era and the WWF. And it just stinks that everything had to change, but it is what it is. And it's one of the big changes, and then has a new brand. And here we are.
Thank the World Wildlife Fund.
Yeah. Right.
That was such a joke. It wasn't a joke for Vince and the company because of the millions of dollars that they had to reinvest to rebrand their company over something as frivolous as the World Wildlife Fund. I'm not against the World Wildlife Fund or taking care of animals and things of that nature. Their intent is good.
Yeah.
But did it confuse the marketplace?
Absolutely.
You got to be kidding me. Hell no.
Yeah.
But the English court thought so. But as you know, the World Wildlife Fund is based in England. Home field advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Go Home Raw is from College Station, Texas, 7,939 fans with a 4.77 rating. There's a lot of good work in the women's division, and Meltzer really puts over how far Trish Stratus has come. Were you surprised how quickly Trish seems to have gotten so good in a wrestling ring?
She applied herself wholeheartedly. She became a true student of the game. Didn't want any shortcuts because she was a girl. She was born to be in the business. Did a great job. We knew she had star power. I knew she had star power when I hired her. She had charisma that you couldn't take your eyes off of. I'm not being crass here.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Or I'm staring at her boobs or something.
Yeah,
she was just great, and she applied herself. She applied herself, Paul. She wanted to be great, and she almost willed herself to success.
She had and has the it factor, even to this day.
She's going to be at. I'm going to see her and Lita together in Liverpool.
Oh, you lucky! She's one I want to meet, man. She's on my bucket list. I love her.
She's a great person. She's a sweetheart. She really is.
Good for you. I hope you have a great time there catching up with everybody. It's announced that Flair will ref Austin versus Taker at Backlash. So we have that added. Is this too much for the match, or do you think having H there adds something to it, JR?
Well, it depends. If you're going to do an angle out of it, it's okay. But it's just as far as I'm not a big fan of wrestlers doing referee gigs because they don't normally know how to do them, and as well as let's say Mike Chioda or Earl Hebner. We have great referees, but it added some sizzle to the formula.
So we got Booker T and Goldust getting put together as well as a tag team, and they are hilarious together. Is this just the case of something being thrown together, or, did they click? Did they have fun backstage and someone say, hey, let's put them together in a tag team? Do you remember?
I think that latter is probably the most likely.
Yeah.
They got along well. They had a similar sense of humor. They're both very entertaining guys, both unselfish in that respect. So there was something there with Booker and Goldust. There's something there that we wanted to try to capture.
Very good. You do an in-ring interview with Hunter, and the crowd is apathetic, to say the least. When you're the babyface champion taking on the babyface hero, and you're still acting like a babyface, it's got to be difficult to get a reaction, is it not?
Yeah, it's challenging. Hunter's in a tough spot.
He is. And in the same week, World Wrestling All-Stars from Australia taped a show for pay-per-view, which featured Scott Steiner and Nathan Jones on top, and Vince McMahon announced a massive show for later on in the year. Do you think that was Vince going after them, or just a natural progression of expanding your business?
I think it was a natural progression of expanding your business and also protecting your brand. And that's how I looked at that deal. It was a ripple in a sea. It wasn't a big tidal wave. Scott Steiner and Nathan Jones, and Nathan could have been a great start. Nathan just mentally had issues. Was not socially skilled, and Scotty Steiner's one of the best. I love Scotty. He's a great talent. Injuries kind of curtailed some of the things he was doing. Tearing this and tearing that. Too many guys are tearing biceps and triceps and pecs and all those things. But no, I think it was just a matter of you nip it in the bud. And the World All-Stars, I don't know that anybody lost any sleep over that deal.
Well, JR, SmackDown finishes the go-home week with Vince telling Hunter that if he loses to Hogan, he'll put him on SmackDown full-time. SmackDown needed Hunter, though, right, JR, in your estimation at this point?
Any brand needed Hunter. He was hot, and he was a leader, and he could have great matches with anyone that we wanted to book him with. And he took all those bookings as a challenge. Here's a guy you've got to deliver against Hogan. Can you do what Rock did? And that's a challenge that I'm sure Triple H took personally, and they pulled it off.
JR, we're going to look for some dirt here from you, so see what you can give. Going into Backlash, it's determined that it's best that you and Lawler call the show and not have it go back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. Did you agree with that decision, and did that lead to any heat? Let's hear it with Cole and Taz.
Well, I don't know if there's heat. We love the term heat or the word pop. I popped. Oh, I popped. Oh, when I saw that, I popped. It's like being back at the ECW arena. We could all sit around and say EC-Dub, EC-Dub.
I love you. You're
I'm sure, because I would have been disappointed if I were Cole and Taz.
Absolutely.
And they had boo-boo faces to some degree, and I don't blame them. They should have been on that show. We should have been able to figure something out that made some sense. But they never complained to me about it. What am I going? I didn't sign the referee. I didn't sign the referees either. I didn't
make the announcement.
I didn't have anything to do with their selection of who the announcers were going to be.
Yeah.
And if they had split us up, then cool. If they'd have said, "Hey, JR, we're going to use on this show, we're going to use Cole and Taz, and you and Lawler could sit out," okay, I wouldn't have liked it. I would have been disappointed, just like Cole and Taz were. But when you get into a situation where in life in general, if you fixate on things you cannot control, you're really wasting your time and your energy. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like complaining about the weather. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to demand the rain stop. So I don't know that they raised hell about it. They may have just personally been disappointed, but I got to believe that Michael and Taz were disappointed in the fact they didn't get to work that show. I would have been, and I don't blame them for being that way.
So Taz didn't put you in any suplexes or the Kata Hajime or any on the
whatever
backstage. Yeah.
No tope suicidas for Taz and JR.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we cleared that air. So that there
I'm sure glad we did that.
Before we get into Backlash, from The Observer, to the surprise of virtually nobody, Scorpion King set a record in its first weekend of being the biggest grossing April release in the history with an estimated $36.2 million. It broke the record set 3 years ago of $27.8 million opening weekend for The Matrix. With a $60 million budget and another $35 million earmarked for promotion, the movie looks to be on pace for being a major financial success, and Rock looks to be groomed to be one of the biggest money players in Hollywood. JR, just how little we knew then, buddy? Whew.
Yeah. No, that was his destiny. And it's worked out very well for Dwayne. I'm very happy. I'm going to work on a project with him, which I haven't talked about. But I'm going to work on a project with Dwayne. I think we're going to talk about the territories. And he's got a panel, I think we got a panel. I can't remember who all is on this panel that I'm going to moderate. Michael Hayes, I think, Jake Roberts, Ted DiBiase.
Wow.
And we're taping that for television, a television special at some point. I don't know where it's going to air, when it's going to air, but if Rock's involved and Brian Gewirtz is involved, it'll be a real good piece of business.
Man, that's exciting. Can't wait to hear more about that. Right here, breaking news on Grilling JR. Looking forward to seeing how that evolves. Very cool, JR. Well, JR, we're here. We're at Backlash. We're at the show. And from The Observer, Vince McMahon promised the happy ending to the Hulk Hogan comeback and delivered, with Hogan winning the WWF title from Triple H to headline the Backlash pay-per-view on April 21st in Kansas City at Kemper Arena. It was something that was probably going to happen at some point, but even though it seemed like the obvious finish from the outside, it was a late decision, not finalized until the day of the show. At 48 years old, Hogan became one of the oldest world champions in history, while not the oldest champion in WWF history. That would be Vince McMahon for a one-week gimmick run in 99 at the age of 54, and that was designed to pop a rating. In your opinion, JR, did Hogan's age matter at this point, or was this a non-issue?
Non-issue, big time. It got over the fans. The fans supported Hulk. They were there. Obviously, just listen. Look at the crowd reaction. Visually see it. Audibly see it. Hear it. No, it was a good call.
Well, Meltzer goes on. He says, the show drew 12,489 fans to Kemper Arena, with about 10,000 paid, well shy of a sellout, despite the Hogan storyline of the legend in his last quest for the title, which is historically a good draw. With ringside, $300 a piece. The gate itself was healthy. It looked good on television because they had a large percentage of the seats blocked off, and 5 minutes before the show, WWF officials went to fans in the balcony and handed them new tickets for much better seats that would be noticeable on camera. Kansas City has never fully recovered as a wrestling city from the death of Owen Hart in the building at the last pay-per-view there on May 23rd, 1999. WCW made things worse by slapping some fans in the face by having Chris Kanyon do a fall off the cage when they did Nitro in the same building a year later, leaving thousands of fans with a terrible taste for wrestling in their mouths. It always has to be a little eerie going back to Kansas City, JR, to the Kemper Arena, does it not?
Kemper, especially. I don't know why we went there. I'm not, after, because of what had happened prior, the Owen situation. I mean, of all the arenas in America that we could have run, we ran Kemper, and I never have quite figured that one out. But in any event, the crowd was responsive. It was representative. It got over 10,000 folks there. They were pumped up. I remember the crowd being involved, but I also know that behind those tearful eyes sometimes in the crowd, that they were thinking about the last time they were there for a WWE event, and it's just challenging to get those thoughts out of your and those images out of your mind.
Oh, I can imagine. That makes total sense.
And for Lawler and I, nobody gives a shit about us. But bottom line is that, we had to relive it again too. And considering I was the one that made the announcement that Owens had died, I carried those with me from all the way from when it happened to going back. So I don't know. I just selfishly, I wish we'd have done it in another building.
Yeah, you're right back in the exact same ring position, most likely, that you were for then. So, well, the show gets a mixed reaction from the Wrestling Observer readers. 40% thumbs up, 33% thumbs down, and 26% thumbs in the middle. And we're going to get into the card here, JR. It starts off with Tajiri pinning Billy Kidman, 9 minutes, 8 seconds to win the Cruiserweight title. They open with some lucha spots. Tajiri did his hard kicks. Tori Wilson was once again wearing a kimono. She could be wearing a paper bag. It wouldn't matter. A cool spot was Tajiri doing that flip into a springboard elbow backwards, but Kidman drop kicked his back. Tajiri did a German suplex into a rolling reverse cradle. Did a series of near falls, and the crowd was into it strong since several of them looked like the finish. Kidman picked Tajiri up for a power bomb, but Tajiri blew red mist in his face and got the pin. 3.5 stars. Was there a lot more to do with Tajiri in your mind, JR, or was his English an issue in getting him to the next level?
Well, yeah, obviously you got to be able to communicate with your primary audience. And Tajiri was a great worker, absolutely a great worker.
He was.
And a funny guy, great sense of humor for a guy that didn't have the English speaking skills. But he was a great talent. And I'm sure glad that we got to run with him through the company. But yeah, I think that Tajiri is very underrated. And so is Billy Kidman. I mean, God dang, we started off this show with that's a hot match.
Absolutely.
And those guys did a good job, and I'm glad they got booked.
If you're a Tajiri fan and you haven't seen any of his work in ECW, go back and check out some of that stuff because he puts on some amazing matches there too. Match number 2, Scott Hall. He pins Bradshaw in 5 minutes and 43 seconds. X-Pac, who's wearing a cane mask, was out with Hall, which brought Farouk out with Bradshaw. They did a reunion between the two of them early, and on Heat they did a Dudley's reunion where Bubba thought Devon had gone nuts. Fans were chanting, APA. Hall was brutal here. Again, this is all according to Meltzer. Just out of it. Not selling much. Bradshaw did the clothesline, but X-Pac put Hall's foot on the ropes. X-Pac punched Bradshaw and ran from Farouk, who finally caught him and rammed his back into the ring post. While Bradshaw was watching, Hall gave him a low blow and pinned him using the trunks. Dave gave it a 1/4 star. Was just another sign that Scott just wasn't working out at this point.
Scott needed help.
Yeah.
Paul. Scott needed help, and he didn't want to get off the road. I remember when I called him and after the plane ride from hell and let him go, I said, I don't think we're doing you any favors by putting you back on the road right now. You need some help. You need to get your life back together, or it's gonna kill you. And so he was on the road when he should not have been, in my opinion.
Well, it all works out for Bradshaw. We know JBL long term, but man, what a way to kind of be the worst case scenario here for a singles debut. But we move on. It's match 3. Jazz retains the women's title over Trish in 4 minutes and 29 seconds. Molly came out to attack Trish before the match, sending her into the steps. Jazz looks like Mike Virgil Jones in drag, but it's 100 times the worker. Again, this is all Meltzer here. Her in that frilly short dress just doesn't work. Solid stuff. Actually very good for a WWF women's match. Jazz used a Boston Crab, then turned it into the STF for the tap out. 1.5 stars. Jazz and Virgil, JR? What's going on here?
Somebody's trying to be a comedian.
Yeah, he's not very funny. But it was hard for the WWE to give them a legitimate spotlight as athletes at this time, wasn't it? It just felt like it was.
Well, the women's thing was still evolving, and we knew we were going to build the women's division to something more viable and marketable. And we also knew that talents like Jazz, Jackie Moore, Lisa Moretti, and I'm sure there's others I'm inadvertently leaving out, we knew could help us a lot. And we needed the Jazzes of the world to help the Trishas of the world elevate their game, both fundamentally and confidence-wise. So, I was sold. I took a personal interest in who we hired as the female side and how they were nurtured. And so, we had workers like Molly Holly.
Yeah.
These are talents that could work with anybody, and they needed to sacrifice their own career, so to speak. Hey, look, they're getting paid. They weren't getting paid less to lose, or paid more to win, or whatever any equation thereof.
Yeah.
So, I was proud of where that thing was headed, but that line was, I don't know.
Stupid. It's good to see people. You mentioned Molly Holly. Pay it forward now. She's a great agent producer now with the women's division with the WWE. So it's really nice to see her continuing on.
Yeah, sweetheart of a person. I met her through Dean Malenko. She introduced me to Nora Greenwald.
Yeah,
and she's has never been anything but a pleasure to work with. I had not talked to her in a long time, but before she went in the Hall of Fame, she had to give a little talk, and she called me 2 or 3 times to talk about her speech. Just, what I thought and some ground rules. I said, well, Vince is going to lay the ground rules. He's not going to give you the time that you probably believe you need to tell your story in this forum. But we had a really classy group of ladies, and I love them all. They contributed a great deal to what we were doing. And again, you get women in the locker room, handsome women, and that can be taxing with all the guys there. Everybody's got, everybody's still normal.
Yeah.
So, but I have always, I never have anything but great memories of that group of women that pioneered what we're seeing today in WWE as far as the women are concerned. The great matches with Becky and Charlotte and all those cats. Those women that we're talking about here on this show are the ones that laid the groundwork for all that stuff.
Absolutely. And you hear the Beckys, the Charlottes, the Sashas talking nothing but high praise for the women that we're referring to now here today. So it's really nice to hear that. We move on. It's match 4, and it's the Beast, Brock Lesnar, defeating Jeff Hardy in 5:32. Meltzer says, when the ref stopped the match at 5:32, they announced Matt as being injured and being at home with an injury. Jeff got a lot more offense than I expected, which wasn't a good thing. Match was too long.
Why wasn't it a good thing? Why wasn't it a good thing? Why, because Lesnar's going over. And so you give Jeff Hardy a hope spot or hope spots to where could he have done it? Could he have beaten this beast under a different circumstance or on a different day? I totally disagree with that situation. For Lesnar to get that big win, he needed to beat somebody.
Yeah.
And somebody that's having a good outing, that's giving Lesnar more problems than Lesnar perhaps perceived. So I don't agree with that particular opinion.
Yeah.
But look, Dave's a smart guy, and he's been around a long time and a great living in this business. He's a smart guy, and he's probably smarter than I am as far as the business is concerned. I would say that. Whether I believe it or not, it's another story. But he's a smart guy. But he should know better than that. That the fact that you want Jeff to shine a little bit before you put him away.
Yeah, he goes on and he says that the match was too long because it required Lesnar to sell. With his manager and his look, he can be a monster, but as a worker, he's not ready for the big push, and trying to have him work hurts more than helps. Lesnar used a double power bomb followed by a spinning spider bomb when ref Teddy Long stopped it. 1.5 stars.
Yeah.
So, the finish is great. It shows the ref has concern that Jeff can't continue. It gives Brock that separation from being one of the rest of the roster. But to your point, Lesnar gives up some offense here, and, he's working on his selling. But in your opinion, JR, was he ready at the time for this push, or do you think it would take a couple of months just to fine-tune?
Oh, he needed more time. He wasn't ready. Ready.
Yeah.
But to be ready, it doesn't mean you can't sell. Doesn't mean you can't put all the pieces of a good performance in place that makes the performance better. So I disagree with that opinion. But again, it's the same thing I said before. Dave's got his right to his opinion. And I don't have to agree with all of them, but that's cool. He doesn't agree with all of my stuff either.
That's right.
That's fine too.
That's why we're all different people and have different thoughts and opinions.
That's right.
So there you go.
That's right. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Match 5 is Kurt Angle, my guy. And by the way, if you want to hear Kurt's thoughts on this match with Edge, he and I just recently covered Backlash 2002. You can check that out. But he pins Edge here in 13 minutes and 25 seconds. Tremendous match. This is Meltzer. Meltzer loves Kurt Angle, by the way. We hear that. We go through these reviews of Kurt's matches, and Meltzer definitely loves some Kurt Angle.
He was a mark for Kurt.
Yeah.
He was a mark for Kurt, and as many of us were.
Yeah. I mean, Kurt did it. Kurt was just fantastic. He says, he goes on to say there was some weird commentary in spots. Lawler and Ross are always so smooth together, and that they kind of know where each other is going, having worked together for so long. Not here. Ross was putting down Edge and asking if there was any gold medalist who came from Canada Then Ross talked about Stu and Bret Hart, who were never in the Olympics. And then they talked about Ben Johnson. Nobody remembers the hockey team. I doubt this played well there. Okay. Angle did a tremendous belly-to-belly superplex early to set up the ankle lock spot. Edge did a scary German suplex with Angle landing on his shoulder and head. Yes, I remember seeing that spot. It was very scary. He also did a plancha from the top rope out of the ring and a missile dropkick for a near fall. Angle came back with the Angle slam for a near fall. He went for an ankle lock, but Edge reversed it into a front rolling cradle. Lots of strong near falls with the crowd going nuts for them with a creative, clean finish. Edge went for the spear, and Angle kicked a field goal with him and got a pin with the Angle slam. This one, JR, got 4.25 stars. What do you think about Meltzer's recap of the commentary?
Well, we're trying to make Edge a heel and try to follow that same train of thought that we did with Brett. You'll be a heel in America, you'll be a babyface in Canada type thing. At least that was the thought process. But that was basically simple as that. Edge had a great cult following. He's a good-looking kid. He had the hair. You know, he was coming into his own as a worker, a phenomenal worker as he's evolved it to be, even this very day at his stage of the game. So I think all we were trying to do is just make sure that Kurt was positioned as a babyface. That's all. Simple as that.
This is the beginning of the big push for Edge, and man, Angle is just fantastic here, as I said. Kurt's the perfect guy to help elevate Edge, is he not?
Yeah. They had great chemistry. They liked each other. They had great chemistry. But we knew what we had with Kurt, obviously, but we also knew what we had with Edge. It's just a matter of getting him there, and you're not going to get him there on one match, one night, one show, one finish, whatever. So I think that was all to try to protect Kurt as a babyface and to establish that Edge, who wanted to be a heel, was being positioned as such.
Yeah, no, fantastic match. If you're going to go watch one match on this card, that is the big 4+ star match to check out. We go to Jericho, who does an interview talking about Kidman, Maven, and Stratus having bouts on the show, and him not. He said he was leaving, which as a heel, guaranteed, he was going to run in. But it does seem odd here, JR, that he's coming off main eventing WrestleMania and has no match on this card. Does that just, is it just a case of we just have so much talent at this point, or?
I think it was just where he put him in a place that he deserves to be. He got a good interview time. He got to say his side of the story, say his piece. But it also harkens back to how Chris was booked at times. There were still some in the camp that thought, well, he's too short. He's not this, he's not that. I hired him, and when I brought him to Vince's house after we'd come to terms, essentially, Vince was shocked that he was so short. And Chris is probably 5'11". He's under 6 feet, but I just didn't ever have. I thought he had a bad hand at times politically. A lot of guys he was coming in. Of course, when he came in, he paired up with The Rock, which pissed off some guys because why didn't I get to pair up with The Rock? So a little office politics in that respect, and undeserved, quite frankly.
Chris is one of those guys, JR, that makes you completely forget about him and his height. You don't even think about it. He's so.
I called a ton of his matches, probably more than anybody else. I've never once stopped and said, boy, he's short.
Exactly. It's just so far away from anybody's mind at this point.
Yeah. It wasn't like calling the Hornswoggle match or something. He's short, by the way.
Yeah. All right, we move on. It's match 6, and here we go. We talked about it earlier. Eddie Guerrero came back, and here it is. He wins the Intercontinental title from Rob Van Dam, 11 minutes, 43 seconds. Meltzer says, Guerrero looked great, but Van Dam just wasn't all the way in it. Crowd was up and down. Van Dam may have been hampered with his knee injury, but also worked sloppy. After a ref bump by Tim White, which was about to become a pattern, by the way, Guerrero used a neck breaker on the title belt, followed by the frog splash. Since they were building the program around who had the better frog splash, he gave it 3.25 stars. So JR, Guerrero returns here in a big way with a big victory for the Intercontinental Championship. You're showing here that you've got a lot of faith back in Eddie, and you're proud of him.
Absolutely. you know, he was just an amazing worker. Was Eddie Guerrero, and I loved being around him. I loved his battle for resurrection and to prove his life and to get rid of the demons and things like that. They were not easy. He battled them every day. But I fell in love with Eddie's character, because I can remember many times sitting in my office at TV having chats with him. And you know, and I'm blessed I got to have him. We got to know each other better. I became a better manager of talent through the experiences of working with Eddie. And I'll always cherish those opportunities that we got to have those talks and hugs and tears that I'll never be able to replicate. It was wonderful.
And it's great too, JR. I'm sure you still get to see Vicky around AEW and backstage. Yeah. So that's nice too. She seems to be doing very well, at least appears that way on screen. So very good. Well, JR, we move on. It's match 7. It's Undertaker pinning Steve Austin. This one went 27 minutes. Ric Flair was the referee, as we mentioned earlier. Flair wore red boots. This is all Meltzer's feedback here. Ross mentioned Red Shoes Dugan, probably the most famous ref in the business in the 60s and 70s, because he was big both on Los Angeles TV, which went everywhere, and in Japan. Lawler didn't know what in the world he was talking about. Crowd chanted what like crazy. Fans booed a lot when Austin got a 2 count, and Undertaker didn't look like he kicked out, and Flair stopped counting. Flair was not a good ref, and they didn't involve him in spots like you normally do when putting over a special ref. Got no idea why the match was so long, and it did nobody any benefit. Hall and X-Pac came out and just watched. They never did get involved. First Flair bump, so he missed the stunner, and Austin having a long pin. Austin went to help up Flair, who was selling way too long for Flair, but I guess he had to. Low blow and choke slam by Undertaker, but Austin kicked out. Undertaker grabbed the chair, but Flair kept from using it. Austin gave Undertaker a low blow, and Undertaker must have forgotten immediately because he didn't sell, then kicked Austin in the face. Austin tried another stunner, but Undertaker got out, and in doing so, Austin knocked down Flair again. Undertaker hit Austin with a chair for a near fall. Austin used Undertaker's Dragon Sleeper, but he powered out. Austin started stomping him in the corner with the fans chanting what with every stomp. That's the one cheer. Man, I wish was never started.
Yeah, me too.
Austin and Flair started fighting over the chair when Undertaker kicked the chair in Austin's face and got the pin, even though Austin's foot was on the ropes. It looked like Flair was making sure his foot was on the ropes before counting in the camera angle, but on TV, they showed the opposite angle where it appeared he couldn't see Austin's leg on the ropes. Austin gave Undertaker a stunner afterwards. Coach went to Flair and showed him a tape where Austin's foot was on the ropes, and Flair said, "Oh, shit." 2 1/4 stars. JR, let's take a look at it. We have a clip of this wrap-up of the match. Here we go.
Undertaker signifying that the end is near.
You know what that means? Could it be the last ride for the rattlesnake?
Well, that's exactly what you got to believe the Undertaker's thinking. Oh, wait a minute. Undertaker, look at that submission move. Austin counter the clothesline. Got a hook of the leg. 1, 2, and another near fall. Flair is.
Now, was that count the same speed, JR? Or did that just speed up just a little bit?
It might have been a little faster.
Oh, yeah, it might have been.
Also now using the Undertaker's his finishing maneuver for the Undertaker, using his strength to power Austin back into the corner and catching Austin those elbows.
Not the chair again, not the chair again.
If Flair sees his chair being used, he's going to disqualify the Undertaker for damn sure. And he makes contact with Austin. Now firing back up. Austin contact with the chair. Now stumbles away at the Undertaker. Walking it dry again is the rattlesnake. And Austin now with a chair, and he's got to be damn sure careful. They're trying to unarm Stone Cold Steve Austin. You don't want to get disqualified. Oh my God! Austin just got the shot.
Did you not see Stone Cold Steve Austin's leg on the rope when you counted 1, 2, 3?
What are you talking about?
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't see it.
I gotta show you.
What's he gonna do?
Come over here. Come over here to the monitor. I wanna show you what just happened in that match. Watch real quickly, Mr. Flair.
There was that boot look you saw. There's the foot on the ropes. Flair doesn't see it. He sees it now.
Now, Mr. Flair, what do you have to say after seeing that footage?
Oh.
A little awkward, but it worked. Now you're thinking, did Flair see it and planned all along to screw Austin, or not? Was it just bad fundamental refereeing? Hell, I don't know. But it got people talking, obviously, and it got Austin lost, but was protected. Undertaker won, and he needed that. So execution-wise, could it have been smoother? I guess it could have, but I'm not so sure what we were trying to accomplish there all these years later.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but it certainly got people talking. Is there conspiracy with Flair and Austin? You know, how's that going to wash out and evolve? I don't know. But that's kind of what you want to do. You want to leave the fans with more questions than answers.
Well, we move on, JR, from that one. It's match 8. It's Billy and Chuck retaining the WWF tag titles over Al Snow and Maven. 5 minutes, 58 seconds. Meltzer says it's a good match, just put in a death position, so high on the card. Big pop when Maven hit the flying crossbody on Gunn as Snow was chasing Rico. Chuck used the kick to Maven and Billy pinned him. 2 1/4 stars. Letdown match, but not a bad one, like Meltzer said. What did you think of Billy, Chuck, and
Fundamentally
Rico?
sound.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to follow that star-studded Undertaker and Austin match with Flair involved. It's not an enviable place to be. Somebody's got to be there. We're overstating the obvious of saying, well, they're put into a tough spot. They were booked. They got paid. And they went out there and they made the most of their few minutes that they had in the ring.
Well, JR, we're here. It's main event time, Backlash 2002. It's Hulkamania running wild. Hulk Hogan, he pins Triple H in 22 minutes and 4 seconds to win the WWF title. Let's check out the Meltzer recap. He said again, no idea why they went this long. Hogan can't bump, and while he tried, he looked bad. Triple H did the figure 4. Hogan got away, did his big comeback, and hit the leg drop. Jericho then attacked referee Earl Hebner and hit Hogan with the chair. So there you go. Jericho does make his big pay-per-view entrance. Triple H, not wanting to win that way, I guess, attacked Jericho and knocked him out of the ring. Hulk up spot, 3 punches, high kick, but he missed the leg drop. Triple H did a pedigree, so mistimed, I thought it was Vince taking it. Undertaker then hit Hebner. Gets his little shots in there. That's both main events with multiple ref bumps. Undertaker hit Triple H hard with a chair and pulled Hogan on top. Hogan didn't want it either, so he clotheslined Undertaker over the top, and in that one spot, I already was scared of them doing a singles match. Then came the leg drop and the pin. There was only real heat in the last minute, but the crowd went nuts when Hogan won. Triple H...
Does that count for something?
The
crowd went nuts. Should that not count for something?
That's right. Triple H bladed, and with the blood running down his face, he strangely looked like a face-painted Ultimate Warrior. He teased attacking Hogan after, but they shook hands. They posed together forever once the show went off the air. He gave it a 1.25 stars. And in our final clip of this week, JR, I have the ending of this match for us to watch together. Here we go.
Hogan had the match won, quite frankly. Hogan's trying to hook up here. Yes, he is. My God, can it be? Can you think it's going to happen?
Listen to the crowd, man.
Yeah, but it's only got a star for it.
Or is this a dream for Hogan?
The crowd was buying all this, Paul.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what the point was.
This is the match that John Alba and I did. We talked about earlier, just a brief mention. that's going to be on a special ad-free shows presentation. But they told a great story, and it wasn't Meltzer's cup of tea, obviously. But in any event, they represented themselves as well as they possibly could.
There we go. There's the pedigree spot that we just covered in Meltzer's notes. Triple H going for the pin. We'll go to a little bit of the audio here.
It's going to be over. Triple H is, oh my God! The Undertaker just struck the referee. What the hell? The Undertaker just struck the referee right in the head. I don't think the referee knew what hit him. The Undertaker didn't want Triple H to win this match. Oh, man. God almighty. You can hear a human being's skull just being cracked and his brain scrambled. Triple H knocked down, and look at the Undertaker. He's pulling Hogan over to cover Triple H, and Hogan says, hell no, I don't want your help. I don't need your help. Look at this.
Again, he's going to win it the Hulkamania way, baby.
Yeah, the only way he should win it.
That's right.
Look out here. Now, the leg drop. Hogan got the leg drop. The referee's there. There's a count. Hogan has done it. My God. My God, he's done it. My God.
Undisputed World Wrestling Federation Champion, Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
We have witnessed a rebirth of Hulkamania. Hulkamania is alive. Hulkamania is real. It is reality. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Look at this. Is it perception or is it reality? Tonight, it is by God reality. Because Hollywood Hulk Hogan has climbed again to the top of the mountain. And the first time in his life, he is the undisputed WWF champion.
Two things, JR.
Yeah.
Nobody better introducing a brand new champion than Howard Finkel, and nobody better to call it than yourself. People can
thanks.
say whatever you want about me kissing JR's ass.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm puckered up. Okay, assholes, I'm puckered up. But yes, that's just amazing, the call that you did there, wrapping up that match. That gives me all the feel, sir.
But you tie a nice bow around it.
Good
Tie a
shit.
nice bow around. And he also, I deviated from accentuating Triple H's loss. I accentuated Hogan's victory. And that's how you psychologically do that.
Ah, so good. That's the JR that we grew up on, sir, and that we loved, and that really made the moments for us. Hogan, obviously, that was a huge moment. The crowd went bananas, as they say. And, man, like you said, regardless of technical matchup, was there a tope suicida in the match? No. Did they need it? No. We were there to watch Hulk Hogan and the rebirth, as you said, of Hulkamania. And, man, what did you think overall of how this entire show was laid out?
There was a couple of matches. I probably wouldn't have gone as long with Austin and Taker. I thought that might have been more time than they actually needed to tell a good story. But guys, their egos, how much time does so-and-so have? Well, they're going to get 30 minutes. Well, we want 30. Just because the other guy got 30 or 20, past 20 or whatever it is. But I thought the show was overall decent, solid. And I thought that the only downfall I could see are those two big premium matches that went maybe a little longer than some folks would assume it needed.
And by the way, not all of you are assholes, just the ones who feel the need to DM me telling me how much I lick JR's nuts every time I do the show with
He
him.
doesn't lick my nuts, ladies and gentlemen, but Paul is a good kisser.
There you go. I know how to pucker up. So listen, did you think Triple H versus Hogan was the best that we were going to get out of Hogan at this point, in your estimation?
Well, I thought Triple H did a marvelous job of pulling the wagon in that deal, leading the match, and not calling any spots that Hogan couldn't execute. We knew he was limited. Everybody knew he was limited at that stage of his life. And it wasn't so much that he was 48 years old as the fact that he'd had so many surgeries. Could his body withstand the strenuous nature of that main event slot?
Yeah.
And I thought Hogan did a good job with that situation. I thought that was it was all well and good, you know. I understand, you know, Meltzer likes the Japanese stuff a lot more than he likes American stuff, seemingly. I might be wrong about that. But, you know, you got to work with the talent strengths. And that's kind of what I thought that match. Triple H did a great job of making sure that Hogan stayed in his comfort zone to execute this match. Very, very classy by Triple H.
He does like his Japanese stuff more than American, but he seemed to find his way over to AEW because he really puts over a lot of the stuff that AEW does. So I got to.
Well, and it shows he's got good taste.
There you go. I like what
I'm
you
with
did
him
there. Well, so what do you say, JR? 20 years later, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle overall. Backlash.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Yeah, okay. It's thumbs up, no doubt. All those famous names, those historic names that we'll never see again in a ring. It was exceptional. It was a piece of time that was historic in nature. Was it the greatest pay-per-view ever? Probably not. Was it the worst pay-per-view ever? Absolutely not. So, but I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a good, solid show, a little something for everybody. And that's what you try to accomplish.
JR, is it crazy 20 years later to realize this is the last pay-per-view of the World Wrestling Federation? That was it. That was the
a little bit.
Yeah.
It was hard to get your mind back focused on things. I remember one of the first nights we did the brand split, they had not given us new gear, and I had not even thought about new gear on television, swapping out what I was wearing that said WWF. And I know Jennifer Good, who was one of our producers, sweet lady, really smart. She got her ass chewed out for letting me dress that way. And I didn't even think about it. I honest to God didn't think about it. I had a dated shirt on for that, if I'm not mistaken. And of course that was easy. That was quickly remedied. We got new gear and we started using it immediately. But poor old Jen got a little ass chewing on that deal, I heard after the fact. And I took responsibility for that because, you know, look, I've been around a long time. I should be able to be smart enough to know to pick out your attire. We just didn't have any of that new attire. So I should have wore something else, obviously.
Well, we're sorry about that, Jen. Hopefully you recovered nicely from that ass chewing. And I'm sure you have 20 years later. JR, let's do it. Let's get into the fan questions because we got a few of them. And then we'll wrap up the show. We'll start with adfreeshows.com. My buddy Zol Lopez, and he says, JR, how much advance notice did you have that the WWF name would change to WWE?
Well, as a work in progress, I guess, you know, several weeks we knew something was going to happen. Just waiting on the courts to do their thing, and you can't predict a jury, you can't predict a court decision. But we had several weeks. We knew it was coming.
All right, next up is Hazard F5. JR, I got to put this guy over big time because he helps us with ad-free shows with Title Chase. He also has his own Patreon and YouTube channel. Check him out. Look for him on social media. Hazard F5 if you're a belt mark. He does a fantastic job with belt reviews, and I'm just a fan of his at all. I follow him. But his question this week, JR, is Brock was my favorite performer from 2002 to 2004 and had it all. How soon was it established backstage that he would in fact be the next big thing? Was the plan always to make him a main eventer before the end of that year? And was he always the intended 2002 King of the Ring? Or was that determined after it was decided to give that year's winner a title shot at SummerSlam?
We knew, God, how do you not know?
Yeah.
How do you not know Brock Lesnar's going to be special? So that would be my answer. How do you not know? You want to get him ready for his in-ring work. You want to get him ready for the social side of it on the road, responsibilities of a main eventer. So, but you know, it's just too obvious that he was going to be extraordinary.
Blue chipper, as you say, JR, blue chipper.
He was, man.
Adfreeshows.com top guy Mitchell Barnett asks, JR, what is your personal favorite version of Hulk Hogan? The red and yellow, Hollywood, or Mr. America? Which one?
I really liked Hogan as a heel in the NWO. I thought he made that group so relevant, and their results speak for themselves. So I really liked the heel Hogan because it was new, it was fresh, it was something. He made a departure from his normal bill of fare, shall we say. But I liked the heel Hogan in the NWO. I thought that was very, very well done creatively. And it was good. And it was great until they started adding everybody and their brother to the group.
Yeah.
You know, if it stayed Hall, Nash, and Hogan, maybe one more, X-Pac, for example, I'm okay with all that. But when they started adding more and more people, I thought that watered it down.
Yep. Perfect. Watered down. Exactly. Adfreeshows.com Slapnut Adam S. asks, what was the rationale behind putting the undisputed title onto Hogan? Did it feel detrimental to Triple H to lose the title to Hogan so soon after his comeback and win at WrestleMania 18?
No, it's just business, creative.
Yeah.
Look, it worked. It worked. The crowd told you it worked. I don't know what more you got to do. You know, the numbers spoke for themselves. Hogan represented himself well. The crowd was ready for Hotel California. It's all good stuff, man.
Yeah.
No problem. Crowd loved it.
Yeah.
And so what else we needed to prove? What else needs to be done? That it wasn't a Tanahashi match? It wasn't Okada and Tanahashi in a 58-minute match? I don't know. It depends on what your flavor that you have a taste for on that day.
When you're a company that prides itself in listening to your audience, there wasn't any other rationale that was needed to figure out what needed to be done there, JR. So
right.
you got it. Adfreeshows.com Slapnut Adam Arpin. My buddy says, Backlash 02 was the first time WWE went back to Kemper Arena since the tragic passing of Owen Hart. What was the atmosphere like backstage?
Solemn, brain surgeon. Solemn. You think we got rejoiced and had a parade? No. We all had the memories of that fateful day, a horrific day that many of us like to erase from our memory. So it was solemn and emotional.
There you go. Instagram, a wrestling historian, says the original plan was for The Undertaker to defeat Triple H to win the undisputed championship. Is that true or false?
I have no idea. I don't remember. It's viable. Undertaker was always in great stead and deserving. So you could make an argument either way. But I didn't hear as much talk about that until we got the idea that Hogan could do it. And this is the way to go for now.
Ben Ledbetter's up next. He says, JR, were the Hardys the right opponents to start Brock, in your opinion? I know Matt and Jeff are great hands in the ring.
I don't know why it wouldn't have been a great way to start. I mean, Jeff Hardy was beloved and over. Just don't forget he was over, and he was. And, you know, we think about the match where I said something along the lines of climb the ladder, kid, make yourself famous with Jeff and Undertaker. We knew Jeff was special, but I don't see anything. The only thing I would have been against is a handicap match, the Hardys versus Brock. I'm glad at least it was a singles match.
Noah Kirby's up next, JR. He said, why didn't Bradshaw why didn't his push last long in 2002?
You know, God, his push, the darn. Why didn't his push? I want to push. Shit. I don't know why his push didn't last longer. I mean, either Vince thought it wasn't working to his full benefit, or John wasn't quite ready. I don't know, but John followed through all that and became a major star as JBL. But I don't know about his push. My God, Connie, yes. The push. Yeah. We love the push here. Jesus Christ.
We got some Barnett. Finally, there we go. Thank you, Noah. Baseball is finally here. He says, what were the original plans for Triple H's title run before Vince pivoted to Hogan? Do you remember that?
You know, you're asking me minute details of a 20-year incident. How the fuck do you think I can remember 20 years ago and his idea or this guy's opinion? Or was he solemn? Was he happy? Did he bring dirt? Jesus Christ almighty. Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry.
The original, Triple H has always figured in. We knew he was going to be a champion and a long-term champion. He was a perfect guy. He could work with baby faces or heels, but he was exceptionally good at being a heel. And a heel champion is very desirable in my estimate. How I would book.
JR, you should be a skit on Saturday Night Live where you just stand up like a podium and people just fire questions at you. Just your reactions sometimes are priceless. And guess who we're hearing from? Longtime NWA wrestler, the Italian Stallion, is up next. And he says, why didn't Hogan use his Real American theme during his run? Come on, JR. Why didn't he use that? I'm sure you know.
Yeah, I know. I can't tell you, though. Oh, I know. Oh, and if you only knew what I know, then you would know I know. I'm really big into belts and music. Not. So, Italian Stallion. He was a pretty good hand this day. If this is the same guy.
It's not. It's just somebody using that as their
tag. Shit.
Yeah.
I was so excited about getting something from the Italian Stallion.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's I don't know about that theme. I think maybe they didn't want to go back that far in time. You know, maybe that was the best one to keep it a little bit more contemporary.
Yeah.
Hey, look, that Jimi Hendrix stuff's not bad, man. That music not bad. You know, was it Voodoo Child?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, for years I thought that was Voodoo Chili. I think I had Voodoo Chili somewhere on the road.
I was going to say that sounds kind of good. Voodoo Chili. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mix in a little cheddar cheese, some sour cream. I'm in. Let's do
onions.
It. Oh yeah, raw onions.
So, but you know, I don't know about the music thing. I really don't. I've been asked. I'm not trying to be rude.
No, you're having fun.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think maybe they want to keep it contemporary. And how do you mark out? How do you eliminate Jimi Hendrix? Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, JR, rumor and innuendo is that next week's a watch along with Conrad Thompson and JR, and it's going to be a classic Raw's War episode from 25 years ago. April 20th.
Conrad's going to join us next week?
He is. It's you and him, man. Oh,
that's awesome.
Has to be. I'm on the road, and he's going to be back, and you were going to get another one in the can. You're going to Liverpool. So, yeah, it's going to be April 28th, 1997, live from Omaha, Nebraska, as you build the cold day in hell. And you'll talk about Bret Hart's surgery, his anti-American promo on the show. Owen Hart takes on Rocky Maivia for the Intercontinental title. Vader, he tries to rough you up, which I think we saw a highlight of that not too long ago.
I was about ready to whip his ass, too, but I felt bad for Leon. Because I've whipped a lot of 400-pounders' asses in my time. Back in my, as Tony Guerrero would say, back in my day, the sheep were afraid of us.
Yeah, we got to check that clip out with the Vader episode. And it's the build to the Goldust interviews with you. And then finally, it's Taker versus Bulldog when the Anvil returns. So lots of fun to look forward to there. Again, with Grilling JR. Just excellent, excellent content going on each and every week here on the show. JR, we've talked a lot about AFS and all the bonus content over there. So let's talk about JR'sBBQ.com because we are into grilling season, my friend.
Fans are saying, oh my God, not another commercial. Not another commercial. We don't know what the word succinct means on this show, ladies and gentlemen. The copywriters are writing this copy. It's way too long. It doesn't need to be as wordy. But we love our sponsors. They're good people. So we're just trying to be good partners. You know, I don't know.
JR, the good news is the ad-free audience doesn't have to hear any of it. So it's,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's right.
So join
that's
ad-free.
right.
Yeah.
That's how you get by with that. That's how you evade that stuff.
That's right. $9
Avoid
a
it,
month.
whatever.
Yeah.
But no, we love our sponsors. It just, I do think that our copywriters are living in their own world and they are a little long. They're worried about it's just so the spots are a little bit long. That's just me critiquing our own show. So that means I'm an honest guy.
That's right.
And I'm not trying to cover up some bullshit. But we got great sponsors that all the products work. You know, I'm trying to figure out how many Blue Chew packs I need to take to England.
Sounds like there's a lot of talent over there. So
I got to work on my budget. I have to budget my blue pills. And see what happens. So, but anyway, next week will be good. But jrsbarbecue.com, my buddy Stephen Link, who runs my site, was in the hospital with viral pneumonia.
Yikes.
He's out of the hospital. He's healthy. Everything's back to normal.
Good.
So orders are back shipping out, rapidly, daily. So check us out at jrsbarbecue.com for the gift packs, the gift boxes. If nothing else, just a bottle of sauce. I've been getting a lot of great positive feedback on our seasoning, which makes anything better.
Anything.
We got a large size now and the traditional size, but it's all good stuff. And they make great gifts. We talked about this at the holidays, stocking stuffers, but they're good for Father's Day. They're good for birthdays, thank yous, things of that nature. So check it out and take a look at it. And again, it costs nada to look.
Absolutely. Check it out. He said it, the multi-purpose seasoning goes good on anything. There's nothing I haven't tried yet, JR, that I haven't said, my gosh, it just enhances it. It's an enhancer, and it just makes it so much better. And burgers, dogs, it doesn't matter. Throw it on there. Yep. Steak, whatever you're going to throw on
seafood.
The grill. Yes.
If you grill fish and you want something to add a little personality to it, that's the way to do it. And it's healthy. I think it's got it's like the mustard. I use our seasoning on like salmon, and sometimes if I have the chance, I will season it and let it sit overnight in the refrigerator, and then when I grill it, I will grill it, and at the end when I turned it and it's almost ready to come off the grill, I'll drizzle. That's a big time chef cooking term. I'll drizzle our main event mustard on it. It is phenomenal.
Wow.
You ain't got to cover, you ain't got to drown it, but drizzle it on there. And to taste, you may want some more when you taste it. But boy, it's really, really good. So, but we appreciate everybody's business. We really do. It's just wonderful to be appreciated in that regard. And I know a lot of people buy our products because they're good, they taste good, and they're also supportive of my family's efforts. And that's what I'm really grateful for.
That's awesome. jrsbbq.com. Check it out. Find those gifts. Send it. If you're a man listening, send it to your significant other. Say, hey, this would be a great gift. He said it. Father's Day is coming up. It doesn't even have to be. It could be a thank you. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Just, so there you go.
You're right.
Listen, JR, it's been my privilege to be with you here again today. We appreciate all your support on Grilling JR. On behalf of the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross, I'm Paul Bromwell, and we'll see you right here again next time here on Grilling JR.
And I'll see you in Liverpool. Cheers, everybody.